1 hour later, the middle-aged man came back to Hai Ming Apartments with the young man from room 302. The young man had a bandage on his head, and his pupils were still quite unfocused. "You're finally home." Chingu walked out from room 304, his hand still holding the mallet. "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to ask you some questions." The young man's eyes darted about evasively before opening the door to his room. "Come in then." There was a thick stench in room 302. Even the middle-aged man whose room was far from tidy had his hand over his nose. "How long has it been since you cleaned this place? Has some food gone sour or something?" Chingu was confused. The room looked tidy, and the young man kept up his appearances. He did not look like a sleazy type of person. "The things that have happened to me for the past 2 months felt like a dream." The young man walked to his bed holding his head. He pulled out a black plastic bag from underneath it. It was filled with the carcasses of small animals. "It's true, like a nightmare that I could not wake up from." Chingu glanced into the bag before his gaze fell back on the young man. "Now that your nightmare is over, you can tell us the things that you've been hiding." The young man dropped the bag aside and began with apology. "When I moved into this room 3 months ago, the landlady said that if I didn't feel comfortable or ran into something weird, I could move out freely. That first night itself I had a nightmare. I dreamed about a leaking window. In the dream, I went to close it and saw a man standing inside the room next door. Initially, I didn't pay it much attention, but after this dream repeated itself for a few times, one day, I suddenly realized that the man who was supposed to be in the room next door had entered my room. I tried to resist, but I couldn't do anything. However, the man didn't hurt me. He told me that he merely wanted some help from me. After that dream, my focus was lost for the whole morning. In the end, I decided to spend a night over at a friend's place, but the man seemed to have attached himself to me. This time, in my dream, he appeared directly beside my bed. The man told me that there was no way I could escape. He said that as long as I helped him, he would stop bothering me. I believed what he said, so I started following his demands to capture some living small animals and threw them into room 303. They were alive when I dropped them in, but when I went to take a look the next morning, the animals were all dead. There were no visible wounds on their bodies, so I had no idea what had killed them. The more he continued, the more afraid the young man became. I wanted to escape from the man in my dream, but his appetite grew. Initially, he just wanted a sparrow or a rat, but 1 week later, he asked me to leave him stray dogs, and the last time, he asked me to lure a living person into room 303 after midnight. When I refused, he started to force me, threatening to kill me in my dream. I was at my wit's end. The young man's eyes were red and he lowered his head. I told my friends about the dream, and the few of us entered room 303 late at night, but nothing happened that night. Then, they stopped believing me, thinking I had lost my mind. I had no one to turn to, and the man's presence became more solid. Even in the morning, I could feel him standing beside him, watching me. The young man's hands moved to grip the bandage on his head. At the time, I only wanted to get rid of him, so I did try to lure someone into room 303, but it was too difficult. When he felt better, he continued. After a few days, I accidentally saw an ad at school asking for a place to rent, and I guess you know what happens next. Due to personal reasons, Men Nan did not want to stay at the school dormitory, and due to his limited budget, I recommended Hai Ming Apartments to him. So, you are the reason Men Nan moved into room 304. Chen Gu did not expect that would be the case. I did remind him of the danger, but like me, he paid it no heed. After saying everything on his mind, the young man felt better. All of that is in the past, so we will not pursue any charges, but we will need to wait for Men Nan to wake up first. Chen Gu took out the rusted key from his pocket. Now I have a few questions for you. I need you to answer them honestly. If you don't know, then just tell me, don't make stuff up. Okay. Have you ever seen the man's face in your dream? Seen it once, the young man admitted after a long hesitation. He has two faces, like two personalities sewn together, and they communicate and argue with each other. Other than giving you their demands, did they talk about anything else? This was the best opportunity to know about the other world. The thing they did the most was argue with each other. There was this one time where one of the faces angrily said that if not for the fear of the Red Spectre, he would rather have died than share an existence with trash. Red Spectre? Chen-gu frowned at the familiar term. He took out the black phone and clicked onto the affection page. Under Xiao Xiao's name, it read Baleful Spectre, but under Zhanya, it specifically read Red Spectre. It might not have seemed important, but because of these two words, Zhanya had her own personal page on the black phone. Chen-gu fell into deep thought. The creature that had followed Wang Haiming out of the third sick hall knew of the Red Spectre, so there was a high chance that a Red Spectre resided in the third sick hall. A spectre on the same level as Zhanya. The thought brought a headache to Chen-gu. The first mirror monster that he had encountered was a toy for Zhanya. Therefore, a normal ghost was powerless before the Red Spectre. He sighed before signaling for the young man to continue. Other than the Red Spectre, I realized that there were a few weaknesses to them. I planned to use those when things got too serious. The young man sat on the bed, not at all minding the stench from inside the bag. The monster rarely appeared during periods other than midnight, it was afraid of light, noisy environments, and most importantly, it seemed weirdly afraid of cats. Afraid of cats? Chen-gu was curious. Yes, the man in my dream asked me to prepare many living animals, but cats were the only exception, so I believe it is afraid of cats. The young man had a point, but it was ultimately just speculation. If possible, Chen-gu did not want to be the first one to try it out. Perhaps I can test it out somehow back at the haunted house. The young man did not dare to speak since Chen-gu did not comment. However, the eyes of the middle-aged man, listening to their conversation, were as round as the moon. Before doing the trial mission for the third sick hall, perhaps I should place a stray cat inside Muyang High School scenario to test the theory. If it works, then it'll be an additional way to deal with creatures from the other side. Even with this information alone, Chen-gu felt that his journey that day had been worth it. Glancing at the young man, he passed the rusted key to him. Have you seen this key before? I have. The young man nodded. Every sunrise, would return to room 303 to clean the animal carcasses, and there was this one time when I found this key in one of the items of clothing. Did the man in dream mention anything related to this key? Like a special door or room? The young man thought about it before saying, when they were talking to themselves this one time, I believe they mentioned something related to a key. What was it? One of the faces said that he had left something important behind in the third room and that the pathway hidden behind the cupboard wasn't locked. They shouldn't have left through the front door, that way, they wouldn't have been exposed. The young man had a vague recollection of the memory, after all, he had heard all this in his dream. The third room? Chen-gu was reminded of the paper note left behind by his parents. The third room in the third sick hall. Could they have been talking about the same place? If they were, then this information is invaluable. The pathway behind the cupboard is not locked, this can be my escape route when necessary. Chen-gu could not tell whether the young man was lying or not. He maintained the same expression while he memorized all the information. After asking a few more questions, making sure there was nothing else he could have known, Chen-gu exited room 302 and returned to room 304. How is Men Nan doing? He's asleep, but he's running a fever. I'll bring him to the hospital tomorrow and try to reach out to his family. Dr. Gao sat beside the bed. You'd better go and rest, I'll stay here and look over him. I've placed the doll on the sofa. There are some bandages under the table, so remember to take care of your wounds. Okay. Chen-gu realized that Dr. Gao was a nice person who knew how to take care of others. He walked to the sofa and saw Xiao Xiao that was lying on her back with her stomach poking out like she was unable to move from eating too much. This little thing. Chengu set the alarm for 7 o'clock. Hugging Xiao Xiao, he soon fell asleep. For some reason, he had a restless sleep that night. He kept repeating the same dream, and in the dream, he was trapped inside a maze-like building and was being chased by something. There was imminent danger. He held a key in his hands and tried it on all the doors, but none of them worked. Wake up. Chen Ji's eyes flew open because someone was shaking him. He saw Dr. Gao standing beside the sofa holding a weak-looking Men Nan. Chen Gu looked out the window, the sun was coming up. It was about 6 a.m. Men Nan's temperature is still running high, we need to take him to the hospital. This room feels weird, so I think we'd better leave together. Dr. Gao had not slept, so his condition was not so good, and Men Nan was even worse, it seemed like he could collapse at any moment. Okay. Chen Gu shoved the stuff into his bag and reached out to hold Men Nan's other arm. Be careful. Thank you for your help last night. When they exited room 304, Men Nan suddenly turned to Chen Gu to say and repeated, thank you. You're welcome, Chen Gu answered reflexively, but then he realized that Men Nan's tone and mannerism seemed weirdly feminine. When he turned back to look, Men Nan had lowered his head. When they arrived at the hospital and ensured that there was nothing dangerous about Men Nan's situation, Chen Gu left. Sitting in the taxi, Chen Gu took out the black phone. He had received the message, he had completed the mission. The player reached the mission venue on time, found the victim's cause of illness, and managed to survive until sunrise. 1-star trial mission completed. A new scenario has been unlocked. Player can manipulate the props inside the set freely using the interface available on the phone. Trial mission completion rate more than 90%, unlocked this mission's hidden item self-perceptive key. Self-perceptive key, 13 malice points. Mental patients are often lacking in the power of self-perception. They are unable to tell their current mental health condition, causing them to think they are fine, thus refusing treatment. When similar symptoms appear in you, this key can help you once. The hidden item for this mission is the key I found. Chen Gu placed the rusted key in his palm. What does it mean by saying similar symptoms appear in me? Is it telling me indirectly that I have a mental illness? When Chen Gu reached New Century Park, it was around 7 p.m. The difficulty of 1-star missions is not that hard, I don't feel as tired as I normally would. It was still early, so he decided to pay the mannequin workshop a visit. The mannequin heads that he had made should have been ready. Chen Gu sent a message to the boss, and to his surprise, the reply came back surprisingly soon. The boss asked for Chen Gu to come immediately. Did something happen? Perhaps it is because I did not follow the dollmaker's talent fully, after all, I was missing some tools then. This was the first time Chen Gu had used that skill. He was afraid of an accident, so he rushed over immediately. When he arrived, he saw the boss standing alone outside the glass door, holding the key, but he appeared to be afraid to walk in. You're already here. Then, why won't you go in? Chen Gu walked toward the man. If some outsiders saw this, they would probably think that he was the boss. The fat on the boss' face jiggled as he reached out to point inside the workshop. Can I cancel your order? No way, you've already accepted my down payment. Chen Gu looked through the glass into the workshop. When his eyes swept across the counter where he had left yesterday's half-finished products, his breath caught in his throat. The 24 detached heads with weirdly human-like expressions were all turned to stare right at the entrance. Chen Gu almost grabbed his mallet to swing at the door. This scene was indeed impactful, no wonder the boss did not dare go in alone. They do look realistic. Chen Gu patted the boss' shoulder. Open the door, will you? After finishing the bodies, I'll leave. You sure are humble. 24 heads, each with different expressions, and all turned toward the door, but realistic is all you have to say. When I came early in the morning, I almost lost my soul being scared by them, the boss said with a pout. I came early to check on your filler and leakage but sigh. I'll probably be reminded of this scene every time I open the door, now I'll need to rent the place no matter what. When Chingu left, the paint job on the fake heads had not dried yet, so they had been unfinished products. They did not look so scary then. After opening the glass room, Chingu and the boss walked over to the counter. Look at this quality, residing in a haunted house is a waste of your talent. The boss followed behind Chingu. He picked up a female student's head from the table. Initially, he had been afraid, but after he got used to it, he was slowly attracted by the bodiless heads. They were incredibly human-like, the girl's eyes seemed to be filled with emotions, and the normal dullness of a mannequin head was absent. You are indeed the best dollmaker I've seen. The boss studied the girl's face closely for a full minute before moving his gaze away. There seemed to be something on his mind. After some hesitation, he placed the girl's head back where it had been and tapped the busily working Chingu lightly on his shoulder. Brother, I came so early today also because I wish to discuss something with you. Brother? The boss' sudden change in attitude and term of endearment unsettled Chingu. Tell me, if I can help, I will. Chingu was working on the design of the mannequin body. It's a deal that will benefit both of us. The boss picked out a name card from his pocket and gave it to Chingu. We should keep in contact with each other. Qian. Chingu did not know what the boss was up to. He was suddenly so friendly. After Chingu accepted the name card, the boss said mysteriously, before this, my main focus was the design of mannequins for shops and parks, but with the advancement in technology, especially 3D imaging, the demand for mannequins has decreased. To keep the shop afloat, I've been considering changing to another field, but the shape and form of this industry has been fixed, a sudden or drastic change in field will be too difficult. It's going to be difficult in any field. My suggestion is for you to stick to what you know in case you lose even your capital. Chingu used clay to form a student's body and was wiping away the surface with a wet sponge. The force underneath his fingers was just right, the surface that he touched came alive like actual skin, smooth and slightly glossy. He did not pay much attention to Boss Qian, he just wanted to finish the job as soon as possible and deliver them to the haunted house. That's what I thought before meeting you, but after meeting you, it's as if I've seen a ray of light through the mist. You have given me a brilliant direction. Boss Qian stood beside Chingu. Looking at the mannequin heads with different expressions, he suddenly said, I have a brave idea. Mind getting me the 16th carving knife? Hey, do you mind paying some attention? If this is successful, perhaps our monthly income will be greater than what you earn in a whole year from the haunted house. Boss Qian slammed his palms on the table and looked at Chingu seriously. The talk of money made Chingu stop working. I'm not one to be swayed by money, but I am interested in your idea. Small dolls won't get a high price, and large mannequins no longer have the market, so I plan to go into the high-end, personalized market. Boss Qian picked up Chinji's mannequin head carefully. This is the first time I've seen such a realistic doll, and you're using a lesser quality material. If we get higher quality materials, does this mean you can make mannequins that are no different from actual humans? Theoretically, I suppose so, Chingu answered, conveniently skipping over the fact that he could make an actual living doll provided he had enough materials. That talent will be our road to riches. Boss Qian took out his phone to look for some doll pictures. These adult sex dolls sold for 8,000 plus on the internet despite their rough quality. If we can provide to scale dolls with perfect skin and features, the asking price will be over 5 digits. I have done the necessary research, the market is untapped and will remain that way for the next few years. Well, your idea definitely is brave. Chingu shook his head and continued to focus on his clay body. Just imagine the income. With your speed, we can easily make 20 of those in 3 days, that's 200 in a month. The market hasn't seen a mannequin of your quality before, so the initial price can be set at 15,000. Even with the most expensive materials, we'll gain 10,000 in profit. That's 2 million in a month. Why are you still so hung up over the haunted house? Boss Qian had expected a far more enthusiastic response from Chengu. I will not do anything illegal. Making dolls according to the pictures provided by clients is a violation of privacy. Chengu knew that he was using the dollmaker's talent to make these mannequins. There were certain latent dangers, and he did not want to wake up to headlines like, "Sex dolls found responsible for young man's death." "Why are you so stubborn?" Boss Qian started to berate Chengu. "Every single one is a lonely island, even married couples will have arguments, but dolls are different. In fact, I believe that many will choose to spend their lives with dolls if given the chance. There would be so much less pressure in life. No matter who it is, if you dump your problems on them, they will get annoyed, but a doll won't. Making dolls for these lonely souls hurts no one. In fact, you will be helping them seek a safe harbor in this lonely world. I feel like you're in the wrong field. You should go sell insurance instead." Chengu lowered his head to focus on the clay body. The world was not as innocent as the boss made it out to be. If his mannequins were mass-produced, things could get out of control, and he would definitely be involved. If there's a brave idea, then we have to give it a try. How about you make 2 dolls today? I will go around to promote them. If that doesn't work, then forget I said anything. There were those pictures on Boss Qian's phone, so obviously, he had come prepared. "Boss Qian, have you considered this situation? You're in bed with a doll, but after you fall asleep, the doll slowly opens its eyes. Why would a doll open its eyes? If you don't believe me, you can come experience it yourself at my haunted house. The mannequins I design are different from normal mannequins, and I mean more than their appearances." Chengu did not go into further detail. The boss felt like a nice person, just a little forward in his thinking. After listening to Chengu, Boss Qian looked at the fake heads on the counter, and he shivered. However, he did not give up. "When you have thought it out, give me a call." Chengu finished the clay body and repeated the steps from yesterday. At 9 a.m., Chengu placed all the fake heads into 3 large paper boxes and called a taxi to drive them to New Century Park. "The mannequin bodies will be ready tonight. This means that I can officially open Muyang High School for public visitation tomorrow morning." The taxi stopped at the park entrance and Chengu called Su Wan to help him haul the boxes into the haunted house. "Boss, what's inside these? They are so heavy." "Mannequin heads." Chengu did not explain further. "Don't open them if you're easily scared." "Understood." After placing the boxes, Chengu had Su Wan go to the dressing room to prepare herself while he stood at the entrance to sell tickets. "With the opening of Muyang High School scenario tomorrow, I'll need to solve the issue of workers. If worst comes to worst, I can ask Director Luo to lend me a park worker to act as the ticket seller." A man who looked about 30 interrupted Chen Ji's thoughts. "Mr. Chen. I finally found you." Chengu was rarely addressed this way. He looked at the person. The man was wearing a casual suit and holding a black suitcase. He had a refreshing short hairstyle, a face full of smiles, and shining white teeth. "You were looking for me? I haven't missed a single one of your live streams, they're too good." The man started with praise, but Chengu knew the quality of his live streams. His content was unique, but due to a lack of good recording devices, the live stream experience could still be improved. "You're too kind." Chengu still had no idea what the man was there for. "You're a viewer. I'm your loyal fan. Ever since your first video entered the Midnight Popular ranking, I have been following you. Later, when Qin Guang copied your content, it was me who posted your video on the forum, exposing his plagiarism." The man said that he was Chen Ji's loyal fan, but he was very calm, and the smile on his face was a professional smile. It felt more like he was in a negotiation than meeting his idol. "Thank you. Chingu did not believe him fully, but the man did not seem hostile, at least he knew right from wrong. Since you're a fan, I'll give you a 50% discount for the ticket. I don't want to disturb your business, why not let the visitors behind me go in first? He stepped aside to allow the people behind him to walk into the haunted house. When Chingu had dealt with the visitors and took a breather, the man moved forward to continue. I hear the people from Qin Guang's studio came to cause you trouble, but you managed to teach them a lesson. Those are just rumors. Qin Guang's people have no moral bottom line, they purposely sent 2 mental patients, and after they acted up inside the haunted house, they pretended to be the victims to slander my name. How shameless! Chingu hissed through gritted teeth. When the man heard him, his expression shifted. He added a smile but said, I also think they were trying to frame you. It was just a visit to a haunted house, why would they end up in the hospital? They should have come up with a better excuse. They ended up in the hospital. Yes, they also promised that they would take revenge by sealing up all your recommendation channels but were stopped by another studio. The man looked at Chingu with a wide grin like a fox waving his tail. After all, the platform belongs to everyone, not just Qin Guang. By then, Chingu had understood everything already. This man before him had come from this other studio. It looked like they had some bad history with Qin Guang's studio, or else they would not have sided with Chingu when they realized Qin Guang was conducting plagiarism. The viewership and recommendation channels for a platform were limited. If Qin Guang dominated all of them, it would cause a slow decline for the other creators. You're here to seek collaboration with me, right? How shall I refer to you? Chingu studied the suitcase in the man's hand, imagining it to be filled with money. Actually, I'm also a host. You can call me Lu Dao. Lu Dao? Chingu nodded. Then, what kind collaboration do you propose? Lately, supernatural live streaming has achieved surprising popularity, and naturally, we want a part of it as well, but our studio doesn't have the right candidate to spearhead such a project. Even if we focus all our resources on a selected host, the popularity won't be higher than Qin Guang's. Even though there is much to be desired about Qin Guang's work ethic, his live streams are interesting and funny, and the man is charismatic. So, you came to find me? I don't think a normal guy like myself has more charisma than Qin Guang. That's where you're wrong. I've seen your live stream. Perhaps you don't notice this, but your live streams are different from most. Lu Dao dropped his smile and turned serious. With just one glance, people will normally be able to tell the live stream is fake, and this includes Qin Guang's live stream. It has the name of a supernatural live stream, but it was merely listening to the host make up stories. However, yours is different. The atmosphere and anxiety were pitched throughout the live stream like life-threatening danger was around every corner. The viewers would experience fear alongside you, and just with that point alone, I'm already mightily impressed. That's because it's all real. Chingu felt like even if he told the truth, Lu Dao would not have believed him. Perhaps I am a good actor. You're too humble. That feeling of dancing between life and death, that is something I haven't seen in professional actors. Lu Dao seemed to admire Chingu greatly. I feel like only your live stream has a chance of fighting Qin Guang. If you promise to cooperate with us, we will fight tooth and nail to help you gain more resources. Then what am I supposed to do? Contribution and reward were give and take, Chingu knew this well. These people are too conservative with their choices. Some of the sets are just next to a residential area, just a move of the camera, and it'll be exposed. You think they're not suitable? Don't worry, I promise you that they're completely safe. All the set locations will be inspected beforehand, and during your live stream, we will assign an auto camera to follow you. You think these can beat Qin Guang? Chingu sighed sadly. He returned the file to Lu Dao. None of these sets are interesting, and the scripts are too predictable. How about I give you my recommendation? What is it? Have you heard of the Third Sick Hall? Chen-gu turned on his phone and entered the name. Soon, many creepy, cruel, and insane headlines appeared on screen. I plan to go here for my next live stream. Lu Dao saw the articles that appeared on screen. The unfiltered pictures caused the man's Adam's apple to wiggle. He wiped the sweat off his forehead before saying, "You sure? Isn't this pushing it a bit too far?" Disappearance of the hospital director and patients. An anonymous letter claims that there are bodies left in the hospital. A changing bloody message, moaning from a closed room, who opened the locked doors at midnight? What have they seen to cause them to go crazy in one night? Who is the patient, and who is the doctor? Screaming, cutting, sewing, the twisting of human nature, the hospital where the sun will never rise. Lu Dao only glanced at the headlines, but his heart started to race, and his breathing became uneven. Are you sure about this? Before he arrived, he had worried about Chen-gu rejecting him due to salary or location safety, so he had prepared many different proposals. He had come up with many different negotiation tactics, but after talking to Chen-gu, he realized that things were already out of his control from the beginning. The haunted house boss not only did not worry about safety but also complained about their locations being too fake. He even had selected an abandoned hospital that sounded creepy from the internet searches alone. Is this person insane? Lu Dao grumbled internally as the smile froze on his face. Mr. Chen, the people from our studio might not be brave enough to enter the location that you selected. If you think the script is not suitable, we can still edit it. It's all right. Chen-gu waved him off. Thank you for your understanding. Shall we discuss the script? I don't need people to follow me, I can enter it alone. Have you misunderstood me? Lu Dao was covered in cold sweat. He formed his thoughts clearly before asking, do you really plan to live stream at this type of location alone at midnight? Is there a problem? Looking at Chen-gu, Lu Dao felt like the proposals that he had spent days and nights preparing had all gone to waste. No, of course not. Please take a look at the contract. If there's any request, do name them. He pulled out a temporary contract from the suitcase. Chen-gu skimmed through it. The contract was lax. This was their first cooperation, so it was just a trial, testing the waters. Chen-gu needed to promote Lu Dao's studio in his live stream room, and in return, they would fight for more recommendations and exposure from the platform. I've seen all of your live streams, the content is perfect, but the equipment is not that professional. Lu Dao opened the black suitcase again when Chen-gu was reading the contract. He placed it between them. This is the live streaming equipment that we can lend you, namely a GoPro carry-on waterproof camera. It is normally used for shooting extreme sports like air gliding or deep water diving. This beside it is the anti-slip chest bracket camera and arm camera. Then, these are wireless earphones. When you're ready for the live stream, we will have professionals help you retransmit the footage, and you can look at the live stream through your own cell phone. Lu Dao introduced the items in the suitcase one by one. I suggest you go and familiarize yourself with the equipment as soon as you can. Qin Guang's next live stream has not been announced yet, but it will definitely be within the next 3 days. We will set our live stream at the same time as him, and the result will be fully dependent on this crossfire. After all, this was going to be a battle with the most popular host on the platform, and Lu Dao had no confidence that they would win, so the contract he provided was temporary. It would be void after this first live stream. Avoiding risk was the nature of a business. Chen-gu understood that. After signing the contract, Chen-gu accepted the suitcase from Lu Dao. When I confirm Qin Guang's live stream schedule, I'll contact you. Hopefully you'll be ready then. Lu Dao extended his hand toward Chen-gu. Happy cooperation, and be careful. After sending Lu Dao off, Chen-gu walked to the staff break room with the suitcase before returning to the front door to sell tickets. The sky suddenly started to darken, and at around 2 p.m., it started to rain. The rain chased away the few visitors the park had. Looking at the deserted New Century Park, Chen-gu did not feel so good. The number of visitors who came to the haunted house was slowly increasing, but the overall number of park visitor was dropping. If New Century Park was forced to close, his haunted house would be affected as well. The number of scenarios is not enough to use the haunted house to support the entire haunted house. Currently, New Century Park was still surviving because there was no competition in Zhejiang, but after the new park was built, the visitors would abandon New Century Park. "Boss, what's on your mind?" Su Wan came out with umbrella and stood beside Chen Gu. "Nothing really." Chen Gu turned to look at Su Wan. "Thank you for your work today, you can go home now. I need to go to the workshop to finish off the mannequins anyway." After cleaning the place, Chen Gu locked the haunted house and walked to the mannequin workshop. Before he reached the workshop, Chen Gu could see that Boss Qian was squatting by the roadside talking to the hawker stall cook. "Why are you standing outside?" Boss Qian saw that it was Chen Gu and stood up with some difficulty. "Brother, have you considered the high-end doll offer? I have a feeling you'll lead a revolution in the industry." "Not interested." Chen Gu entered the workshop to focus on his work. "Just think about it. You could be the next king of adult sex dolls." All the mannequins were done by 9:30 p.m. The 24 headless mannequins stood in the workshop, creating a harrowing scene. "They're so realistic, it's like art. I'll leave them for the night, and I'll come to take them tomorrow morning." Chen Gu patted Boss Qian on his shoulder. "Watch only from afar, and please don't touch them." After a few more words, Chen Gu left with his umbrella. He came out from the workshop, and the rain was still pouring. "How am I supposed to drag 24 mannequins to the park? I should call Uncle Su for help tomorrow." He opened the umbrella and walked down the street. The shops on both sides of the road were packing up their stuff. Several shop owners were calling their children home, and they were planning to close already. Chen Gu did not notice it until he passed a small alleyway, and he heard a child crying. He turned to look and saw several young boys tossing rocks and empty bottles toward a specific corner. One of the boys had scratched his finger, and as he cried, he picked up debris from the ground to toss it in the corner. The boss of the lottery ticket shop next door came out to yell, "Jia Ming, Jia Bao, stop playing, it's time to go home." "Dad, little brother was scratched by a stray cat," one of the boys screamed. "Scratched by a cat? Let me see." The man rushed into the alley. After some hesitation, Chen Gu followed. When the man saw the wound on his boy's finger, he hugged the crying boy and kept consoling him. When he saw his father, the boy cried even louder. "Don't cry, Daddy will help you take revenge. Is it this cat that scratched you?" He picked up a nearby brick and tossed it at the poor creature. The brick landed on flesh, and a whimper could be heard. Chen Gu used his calf to block the brick. He stood in the middle of the alley looking at a broken paper box left in the corner. Inside the box was a white cat whose body was covered with bleeding wounds. The cat was fierce, its claws and teeth showing. Even though blood was flowing down its head, it still refused to leave the paper box. "Why won't it run away?" Chen Gu took one step forward and saw that there were 4 kittens inside the box, but all of them were no longer breathing. The chaos created by the boys littered the area around the box. However, inside the paper box was clean. "What's the matter with you?" The man grabbed a broom and pushed Chen Gu aside. "Move it." His calf was still hurting. When the man pushed him, it felt like something had come over Chen Gu. He grabbed the man's arm and toppled him over. With his hand on the man's head, he pressed his face into the muddy ground. His pupils narrowed to become incredibly scary, it felt like it was a gaze from beyond the grave. Yin-yang vision. The man tried to struggle initially, but when he saw Chen Ji's face, a chill covered his entire body, even his teeth were chattering. "Chill, we can talk this out." The man tossed the broom aside. With his face pressed into the ground, he said in a shaking voice, "There are surveillance cameras all over the area. A stray cat is not worth it. I'll leave immediately. Chin-gu released his grip on the man as his gaze slowly returned to normal. Jia Ming, Jai Bao. The man jogged off in a hurry, and the boys quickly followed after him. Peace returned to the back alley. Chin-gu glanced at the broken paper box in the corner. He was about to walk closer when the injured white car arced its body and lowered its ears. Its eyes narrowed into slits as if it was about to attack. It was afraid and cautious of any living humans. Chin-gu slowly bent down. He did not do anything that might make the cat feel threatened. Instead, he opened the umbrella and placed it over the paper box. Dark clouds hung low in the sky, and the rain drenched Chin-ji's jacket. He squatted before the cat, his mind a mess. Earlier, he had seen fear on the man's face. Normally, shouldn't the party with the weapon have resisted instead of surrendering so easily? There was such a change to the boss attitude, and this made Chin-gu wonder, what had he seen? When I gripped him earlier, there was a chill radiating from the eye. That should be the yin-yang vision in effect. The description the black phone provided on the yin-yang vision was very vague, and Zhanya had even blown half of the mirror monster's body into his eyes. Yin-yang vision seemed to have evolved, but what was the effect of the evolution? Chin-gu could not really tell for sure. I acted almost instinctually earlier. It's probably caused by the pent-up stress from all the things that have happened recently. Ever since obtaining the black phone, Chin-gu had not had a good rest. He spent his days either completing daily missions or the more dangerous trial missions. However, they came with rewards. At least, number of visitors and reviews for the haunted house had increased. After staying for a while longer in the alley, Chin-gu realized the white cat still refused to let him get near. He did not force it. He found a nearby spot to hide from the rain and planned to leave after the rain receded. He waited for 10 minutes, but the rain still showed no sign of slowing down. Chin-gu used the flashlight in his phone to shine at the corner. In the darkened alley, the ground had started to get flooded. The paper box was soaked, and a huge hole was forming at the bottom. Chin-gu walked forward to take a look. The injured white cat could not hold on any longer. It was already lying down alongside the 4 kittens whose bodies had already gone cold. I can't just leave it to die, can I? Chin-gu removed his jacket to wrap it around the cats and ran to catch a cab to rush to the nearest pet store. 10 minutes later, Chin-gu arrived at his destination, and a girl in uniform was locking up the place. Wait a minute. Chin-gu did not even open his umbrella and rushed directly toward the girl. I'm sorry, but we're closed. Come back tomorrow. The woman saw Chin-gu, and she took an involuntary step back to maintain a safe distance. This cat won't be able to wait until tomorrow. Money is not a problem, please save it. The rain had soaked Chin-ji's clothes, and he looked rather worse for wear. The woman looked at Chin-ji's arms. The white cat was covered with mud, and a long wound ran down its face. A stray cat? Yes. Stray cats are naturally wild and will often lash out at humans. It seems like these injuries were human-made, probably because it had hurt someone. Are you sure you want to save it? Yes, Chin-gu confirmed. A few boys probably killed the kittens, and the cat kept its vigil beside the kittens despite the barrage of broken bottles and bricks. It was horrible. If you insist on saving it, come in. The woman unlocked the door and accepted the jacket from Chin-gu. The 4 kittens cannot be saved, but if you want to keep this cat, I suggest you bury the kittens beside your house. Okay. Chin-gu glanced at the woman's name tag. She was the owner of the pet store. Her name was Zhao Wen. She started nursing the white cat's wound after they entered the store. Chin-gu sat in the store, staring at the cats and dogs in the cages. Weirdly enough, after Chin-gu entered the pet store, all the animals became curiously quiet. Is it something on me? Or is it because of Zhanya? Chin-gu wandered to a nearby cage. The cat inside it was huddled in the corner, curled up in a ball. With this comparison, Chengu was even more impressed by the white cat. When he first approached the white cat, it did not show fear but gnashed its teeth, looking like it was trying to fight to the death with Chengu. This stray cat might bring me some surprises. The young man in Hai Ming Apartments room 302 had told Chengu that the weakness of the mirror monster was cats, so this was one of the reasons Chengu had decided to keep the white cat. Zhao Wen came out hugging the white cat when it was around 11 p.m. She also held a small basket in her hands. Inside it lay the 4 kittens. I'm quite surprised at how pretty the cat is. Unfortunately, the gash on its face cannot be removed or it would be prettier. Chengu could not even recognize the snow-white cat Zhao Wen was holding. Its fur was soft and luscious. However, the key feature of the cat was its eyes, red and blue. Why would the original owner abandon such a pretty cat? Chengu thought the cat was pretty as well. I'm not trying to scare you, but it is not a good practice to adopt stray cats, especially one like this who looks like it came from a good line and background. The original owner abandoned it probably because of some taboo or something bad that happened. Zhao Wen passed the cat to Chengu. In any case, now that you're its owner, you have to be responsible. There are plenty of small wounds on its body. Remember to check them daily for infections. After paying, Chengu returned to New Century Park with the cat and kittens. This will be your home in the future. Chengu only opened the gate when the originally sedated suddenly perked its ears up. Such a reaction before even entering the haunted house. This cat might really be useful to me. Chengu placed the white cat at the door and walked into the haunted house with the basket of kittens. The cat howled for a long time before following unwillingly. Chengu wanted to give this cat a try, so he led it around several scenarios. The white cat acted normally inside the Ming Hun, Murder by Midnight, and Night of the Living Dead scenarios. However, when Chengu pulled the wooden boards back to enter the Muyang High School scenario, the fur on the white cat stood on end as it jumped on the steps leading downwards to block Chengu. Muyang High School's mission hasn't been completed yet. It might still hide more secrets. Chengu had no idea what the white cat had sensed, but the fact that it had blocked him meant that Chengu was not wrong to have saved it. Closing the board, Chengu went over to hug the cat, but the cat jumped away. It seemed to despise human contact. Carrying the basket, Chengu returned to the staff break room, and the white cat followed. It was not until Chengu closed the door that it calmed down. The white cat jumped onto the chair and spotted Xiao Xiao, who was hiding underneath the table. Such a mischievous thing, you. Chengu pulled Xiao Xiao out from underneath the table. He waved Xiao Xiao before the cat, saying, "This is our friend, so don't hurt her." The white cat did not react in any way. Perhaps it was because the enemy was too weak, so it was not even interested. At the very least Xiao Xiao is a baleful specter, but she was ignored so completely by the cat. Chengu rubbed Xiao Xiao's head, feeling weirdly sorry for her. Chengu placed Xiao Xiao on the table. This naughty ragdoll who always tried to sneak out was surprisingly well behaved. Chengu could sense fear from her. Xiao Xiao had not shown that emotion when facing the mirror monster. Is the cat too special or Xiao Xiao too weak? Curled up on the chair, the white car looked at the 4 kittens in the basket. It did not seem to be concerned about anything else. Since I've decided to adopt it, I should give it a name. I can't call it White Cat forever. This was the first time in his life that Chengu had adopted a pet. He sat down on the floor and studied the white cat. We met at night in the middle of a rain, so how about I call you Night Rain? The cat did not move, but Chengu could sense its displeasure. Well, if you don't like such a pretentious name, how about Fortune? You know, for good luck. The white cat turned its head away like it did not want to have Chengu in its view. Still don't like it? You're completely white, so how about Snow? Milky? Rice? Perhaps because Chengu was physically too close, giving off a threatening aura to the cat. It gnashed its teeth. Its whiskers flickered, and the wound on its face started to bleed again. Christ, you sure are wild. Other people's cats were all cute and cuddly, but this one was as wild as a tiger. Chin-gu looked at the scary wound on the cat's face, and he moved cautiously backwards. You're not one bit like a cat, more like a tiger. How about I just call you White Tiger? Chin-gu then realized how weird it was to call a cat the name of a different animal. He was about to change it when the white cat on the chair suddenly stood up. With its ears perked up, it jumped down from the chair and clawed at the breakroom's door madly. What's going on? The cat was acting strangely, it seemed desperate to leave. Chin-gu noticed this and quickly opened the door. It didn't even act like this when we were in Muyang High School. It must have sensed something. After the cat exited the room, it headed right for the first-floor bathroom. Its claw leaving a deep scar on the wooden door. First-floor bathroom. Chin-ji's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the time. It was midnight. The mirror. He rushed in behind the cat and pulled the black cloth off. Inside the mirror, the red door had appeared punctually, but this time, there was some notable difference. Blood-red liquid seeped out from the sides, and the door in the mirror shook every few seconds like someone was pushing it from the other side. Chin-gu did not dare act too rashly. He turned back to look at the door in the real world. The door in the real world and the mirror shook at the same time. At midnight every night, this normal-looking door seemed to become the link between the two worlds. There's someone behind the door. Chin-gu grabbed the nearby mop nervously as his eyes focused on the dancing lock. He was relieved that he had remembered to lock the door last time, or else the thing would have entered the haunted house already. The force of the shaking grew. The only thing Chin-gu could do then was wait for 1 minute to be over. He did not want to provoke the monster behind the door, and he had no interest in knowing what it was. He just wanted to manage his haunted house in peace. The door lock wiggled violently. It felt like it would not hold on for long. Chin-gu gripped the mop tightly, preparing for war. The white cat lowered its head and arched its back, ready to pounce. Nothing scary happened. 1 minute later, the bloody door in the mirror disappeared, and the door in real life returned to normal. Everything's fine now. Both Chin-gu and the white cat sighed in relief. Interestingly enough, the white cat seemed to glare unsatisfactorily at Chin-gu as if it was saying, I've been here less than an hour, and you have given me 2 scares already. Is this any place for a cat to live? You dare to glare at me? Chin-gu was about to hug the cat when it jumped out from his arms and rushed back to the staff break room. Didn't even allow me to touch. Such a cold-hearted cat. Chin-gu stood in the bathroom alone. He found the key and opened the cubicle door to peer in. The door on the other side showed signs of being rammed into, and the lock had become loose. Looks like I'll need to find a sturdier door. Chin-gu considered breaking the door directly, but he was afraid that even after he broke down everything, the door would still remain. When the door appeared for the first time, there was nothing wrong. When it appeared for the second time, there were weird noises coming from behind the door like a body being dragged. This is the third time, and someone was trying to burst through the door. Chin-gu placed the black cloth over the mirror. He looked at the covered mirror and commented internally, my parents once said that the door of the third sick hall has been opened again. Could the door they mention be similar to the door in this bathroom? Has the third sick hall become a lair for these monsters? No one could answer Chin-ji's question, and he could only rely on himself. Chin-gu went to the props room to grab some wooden boards to increase the door's stability. When he was done, it was already 1 a.m. I need to go to sleep because I need to go get the mannequins early tomorrow morning. He grabbed a quilt to place beside the white cat while he climbed into bed to sleep. Chin-gu was woken up by the alarm at 7 a.m. The white cat woke up alongside him. The white cat was on high alert, the smallest commotion would cause it to tense up. It's time to work. Chinguk called Uncle Su to borrow the park's lorry to haul the mannequin's body from the workshop. The white cat guarded the basket. Chinguk could not get near the 4 dead kittens, so he left them be for now. After 2 trips, Chinguk finally brought all the mannequin bodies back to the haunted house. The corridor was filled with headless bodies. Uncle Su only took a glance at it before escaping with a random excuse. "Are they that scary?" Chinguk pulled open the wooden boards. He marked the heads and the bodies before screwing them together. Then he moved them into Muyang High School scenario. After placing them in the sealed classroom, Chinguk put the clothes on the mannequins one by one. When he put the clothes on the last mannequin, he felt the black phone vibrate. Completed 2-star scenario. Muyang High School's hidden missions finished building the bodies for the 24 spirits in the sealed classroom. Congratulations for obtaining the mission, rewards the returners' goodwill. You can now give them simple instructions through the phone. Warning: once the lingering spirit leaves the scenario, they will go berserk. Please be careful. All the hidden missions in Muyang High School had been completed. The 2-star scenario could be officially opened. Should I call He-san to give him a free go? The child might say he doesn't like it, but I think that he's enjoyed himself every time. The dolls created using the dollmaker's talent looked incredibly creepy. With 24 dolls inside the sealed classroom, either standing or sitting, even Chinguk did not have the heart to stay for too long. I must not release Muyang High School scenario to the public easily. If these 24 lingering spirits go mad, they will probably scare someone to death. Chinguk had created all the mannequins himself, so he could acutely feel the change that happened to these mannequins after the school uniforms were put on them. It felt as if all the mannequins had acquired a soul, like the things that stood before him were not props but actual people. Due to limitation in budget and workers, rarely would a haunted house place more than 10 actors in the same scenario. The lack of help was also something that Chinguk had been worried about, but now this problem had been easily solved. A small scenario alone had 24 professional actors. Now that was a high-end haunted house. Gosh, even I am getting excited about this. This 2-star Muyang High School scenario might be able to help me make the haunted house a household name. After finishing the arrangement of the sealed classroom, Chinguk placed the student name tags that littered the lectern inside the paper box. There is no exit inside Muyang High School, and there is only one entrance. The original plan of finding the escape is no longer usable. I will need to come up with a new rule for the game. Chinguk narrowed his eyes before coming up with the solution. He could go around Muyang High School scenario to hide the 24 name tags in various corners. To clear the game, the visitors will have to find all 24 name tags in under 20 minutes. The winners will get a full refund of their tickets on top of a cash prize. This way it will provide incentive for visitors to enter the haunted house and will also increase the fun factor and interactivity. Chin Ji's haunted house was rapidly expanding. He had been trying to figure out ways to make his haunted house more inviting and interesting. This treasure hunt for the name tags was, for Chinguk, worthy of a trial run. I will need to include more interesting elements in the future. The aim is not to create a scary haunted house but a whole park themed around scares and horror. When Chinguk was hiding the name tags, he realized that Muyang High School's scenario had grown bigger. There was a new junction at the end of the corridor. There were an additional 3 adjacent old-looking rooms. There were room numbers hanging on the doors: 302, 303, 304. The room of 3 one-star trial mission had unlocked 3 new rooms beside Muyang High School. They merged perfectly together, but the corridors did appear to be much narrower. All the scary scenarios will expand close to each other. Eventually, the whole underground parking lot will be filled with my scenarios. The routes will overlap with each other, thus making an actual maze of terror. Chinguk retraced his steps and returned to the haunted house's first floor. He fixed his dusty outfit, exited the haunted house, and opened the gate. The sun shone warmly on his skin. It was a good day to go out to play and enjoy the weather. Su Wan arrived at the haunted house at around 9 a.m. Chen-gu had her go and prepare her makeup before sending her into the Ming-hun scenario. As the number of visitors increased, Chen Ji's haunted house became the only attraction at New Century Park that required the visitors to line up. To smoothen the process, Chen-gu gave Uncle Su a call, asking him to assign a free worker to come help him sell tickets. Who would have thought that, after a while, it was Uncle Su himself who came. There are not many free workers to go around, and since I am free, I came to help. Do you need me to go inside this ticket counter to sell ticket? No need, just do it whichever way is most comfortable to you. After leaving the ticket sales to Uncle Su, Chen-gu returned to the staff break room. He pulled out a wooden board and used fake blood to write down the introduction and game rules for Muyang High School on it. When he exited the haunted house with the wooden board, there was a contained commotion among the crowd. A new scary scenario to experience. This introduction sure is creepy. A school horror story. This, I like. The crowd's attention was attracted immediately. Since the ticket price was the same, the few who stood at the front of the line all requested to experience the new scenario. Everyone, please listen to me. Chen-gu placed the wooden board upwards by the door. This new scenario is very scary. Inside, we have professional actors and the nation's top equipment as well as props. When I offered this scenario for a trial run, a set of workers from a horror studio accepted the challenge. They attempted to plagiarize my content by videotaping it, but they accidentally captured something incredibly scary. In fact, the two that went in to experience the scenario are still in hospital. Uncle Su, who stood to the side, did not know what to say, seeing Chen-gu list this dark history so proudly. He could not understand what there was to be proud about scaring people to their death. Tell us, what they have captured on film. You think we are that gullible to believe people might get sent to the hospital from a visit to the haunted house? Boss, don't waste your breath. We are playing this scenario. If I do not enter this scenario today, I am not a man. After the visitors settled down, Chen-gu continued. The reason I brought this up is because I wish to tell all of you that this scenario is not open to everyone. Only those who have completed the earlier scenarios can enter this one. Chen Ji's meaning was clear. To enter Muyang High School, they either had to finish Ming-hun or Murder by Midnight scenario first. Delineating the scenarios according to their scream factors was something he had decided from the very beginning. This is daylight robbery. The moment Chen-gu announced the new policy, there was instantly the sound of protest. Entering every one of your scenarios requires us to purchase a new ticket. If this is not forced expenditure, I do not know what is. Has the success gotten to your head? I came because of the good online review, but what you are doing is incredibly immoral. So many rules to visit a haunted house, I will just give up. Now, are you happy? Chen-gu had expected this type of reaction from the crowd. When the visitors had their say, Chen-gu slapped the wooden board and said, "Trust me, I do not intend to cheat you out of your money. The ticket price of only 20 is the best proof. To prove my sincerity, how about we have a bet?" He took out the reward money that he had not used yet and placed it beside the wooden board. This here is 20,000 in cash. I have hidden 24 student name tags inside the Muyang High School scenario. If any of you can find all 24 name tags in under 20 minutes, this 20,000 is yours. Ticket price is only 20, but reward is 20,000. That's almost a 100,000% increase. How do we know how many name tags you have actually hidden inside the scenario? What if you have only hidden 23 name tags? Doesn't that mean no one will win the reward? A visitor pointed out this valid question. Chen-gu was too lazy to argue, so he merely said, "If any one of you can walk out of the scenario normally, I will answer your question." The 24 name tags were hidden in extremely secluded places, and a few were hidden in places that people would least expect. Such conceit. Why is that? Even though I know this is a cheap trick, I still have the urge to give it a try. Let me. The atmosphere was thus brought up to a boiling point. Chin-gu asked Uncle Su to look after the money for him. Today marks the first day a new scenario and a new rule are officially put into use. Due to a lack of promotion, many people still do not know this yet, so just for today, the new scenario is open for all. There is no need for you to go through the previous scenarios first. I have already stated the reward that awaits the winner. Only one person can enter at a time, and everyone can only experience it once. The placement of the name tags will be changed each day. Alright, who wishes to come forward to take this 20,000? Earlier, everyone had been incredibly noisy, but when Chin-gu officially extended the invitation to the crowd, they looked at each other, but none dared step forward. Chin-gu scanned the crowd and realized that there was a group of 6 at the end of the line huddled together like they were discussing something. After a while, 5 of them came toward him. Boss, we do not want to challenge the game, we just want to visit the scenario. Can the 5 of us enter at the same time? The leading young man asked Chin-gu. The 6 of them had obviously come together. 5 of them were going to scout the new scenario, and after obtaining all the necessary information, the 6th would come forward to accept the challenge and find all the name tags with the information provided by the 5. Chin-gu knew what they were up to. The 6 of them were trying to cheat the system, but he did not seem to mind it. Sure. All 5 of you can enter together, but I have to remind you, please do not use your phone to take pictures or videos inside the haunted house because they might scare our friends from the other side. 5 of us, so here is 100, the young man said with a smile. He did not pay Chin-ji's advice any attention. After accepting the money, Chin-gu flashed the 5 visitors a professional smile before saying, "Thank you. Now, please come with me." Chin-ji's smile was quite comforting. The 5 visitors did not think too much of it, but next to them, Uncle Su shivered involuntarily and, after some contemplation, decided to walk over to stop Chin-gu. He whispered into Chin-ji's ear, "These are normal visitors. They have no history with us, you have to be careful. Please try to make sure everything is safe and sound. Uncle Su, do not worry. I know what I am doing." Chin-gu pushed Uncle Su gently aside. However, the park manager was made anxious by this promise that he made. "Who are you trying to kid? That was what you said the last time, and those 2 poor children are still lying at the hospital. That one by the name of Fei Yuliang can be heard screaming every midnight. He does not stop asking who his wife will be, and almost everyone at the hospital knows about him." Uncle Su was worried about Chin-gu. "We will let the visitors enter happily and then escort them out safely. What is so bad about that?" Okay. Don't worry, everything is within my control." With Uncle Su's repeated advice, Chin-gu led the 5 visitors to the underground parking lot. "Please sign these disclaimers first." Chin-gu passed a few copies to the visitors. "All the notes and warnings are written there. Feel free to browse through them. This is quite official." The leading young man signed the agreement without even reading it. His name was Wang Hailong. He was about 1.85 meters tall and roughly the same age as Chin-gu. "Boss, will you renege on the promise of the reward money? If someone really manages to find all 24 name tags, will you give him the money?" There was slightly shorter man standing next to Wang Hailong. They appeared to be siblings. His name was Wang Wenlong, but their personalities seemed to differ. "Of course, where would I be today without honoring my promises?" Chin-gu replied with a professional smile. 20,000, 1 person, 24 name tags. Since we have 5 people, if we manage to find all the name tags, can you give us 4,000 each? The person who spoke was Wang Hailong's girlfriend. She wore a thin shirt and hot pants. The buttons of her shirt were not tight, and there was a fluttering butterfly tattooed on her collarbone. The girl's name was Do Menglu, a pretty girl but horrible handwriting. Why not? The aim is to have fun. If you can manage to find all the name tags in 20 minutes, you'll each get not a penny less than 4,000. Chen-gu continued to smile. Wang Hailong dropped the pen and promised, nice. I'll definitely call my brothers to come support you next time. Then I shall thank you in advance. Such a kind visitor. Chen-gu was touched. After signing the agreement, please come with me. A word of advice, don't stay too long in the sealed classroom. The group walked to the end of the corridor, and Chen-gu pulled the boards away. There are many rumors about the abandoned school. Whether you believe them or not, be careful. Remember, no cameras when you're inside. You'll be responsible for the consequences. It's underground. The five looked at the dim tunnel which felt like someone was walking on it. What was that? The fatty who had not spoken suddenly screamed as he staggered back. He had a beer belly and beady eyes. He did not seem to be that courageous. Pei Hu, you're scared before we've even gone in. Wang Hailong grabbed Pei Hu's bouncy arm. It's all fake. If you're that scared, hide behind Mei Li. Stop whining. Are you going in or not? This time, it was the other woman who spoke. She had a perpetual frown on her face and was short in stature. Even though she already tried her best, standing beside Menglu, she was like a green leaf accompanying the bright flower. Chen-gu glanced at her agreement. This girl's name was Xia Meili. What's the hurry? Wang Hailong winked at Chen-gu. Boss, remember to start the countdown only after we're in the tunnel. Sure. Chen-gu took out his phone to prepare. After the five visitors entered the tunnel, he closed the boards and put his phone away. Countdown. What was that? If they could walk out on their two legs, it was already good enough. Inside the dressing room, Chen-gu put on Dr. Skullcracker's outside and skin mask before going to the control room. He looked at the list of background music and decided against putting Black Friday on a loop. Uncle Sue is right. We're in the service industry, we should put our customer first. He moved the cursor to lower the volume and added Wedding Dress to the playlist. Listening to the same music again and again will bore the visitors. The boards above their heads were sealed. The five visitors stood in the dim corridor looking at the half-open classroom doors as shuffling noises drifted into their ears. This place is huge. Pei Hu nudged backwards to stand beside Mei Li. Isn't that a given? How else was he going to hide so many name tags? The boss isn't dumb. The slenderest man among them, Wang Wenlong, took the first step. Let's get moving. 5 of us should be able to find all 24 name tags. After we win the 4,000, we shall go for hot pot and karaoke. Since we're already here, let's finish this. My little brother is right. Wang Hailong took large strides. When he passed the first classroom door, he stopped. This sudden movement spooked the others. Hailong, what have you seen? Do Menlu whispered. Look at yourselves. What is there to be afraid of? He kicked the classroom door open, and the name tag that sat on the doorframe fell to the ground. This is easy. He picked up the name tag, and a girl's name was written on it, Chen Yalan. This name tag was placed at such a conspicuous location. It's probably to help us recognize the shape and size of the name tags. Wang Wenlong took the name tag and gave it a look. Every name tag should have a student's name then. The edges are yellowed, this looks old and wouldn't be easy to replicate. What has that got to do with us? We've been in here less than 10 seconds, and we've already found one. As long as we're not afraid, finding the remaining 23 should be easy. Wang Hailong took the name tag back and continued moving forward. The easy success also relaxed the remaining members. Wind made the blank test papers that littered Muyang High School flutter. None of them realized that even though all of them were wearing shoes, there were fuzzy bare footprints that appeared on the papers. The temperature lowered, and in the darkened corridor, a creepy children's lullaby began to play. It sounded like crying and laughing all rolled into one. The atmosphere turned weird, and there seemed to be something hiding inside the classrooms on both sides. It was as if pairs of eyes were looking at them in the dark. There's nothing to be afraid of, but how come I feel weirdly unsettled? The five separated to find the name tags faster. Xia Meili and Wang Wenlong went into the classroom on the left-hand side to search while the rest searched the ones on the right. They searched a few rooms but came up with nothing. This boss is smarter than we gave him credit. Let's move forward, we cannot waste any more time. Wang Hailong walked at the forefront. When he passed the sealed classroom, he halted. What's wrong, Brother Long? Did you discover another name tag? Pei Hu turned his head in the direction Wang Hailong was looking. He only took a glance, and a chill surged through his body. There was someone standing by the classroom window, and he appeared to be smiling. The scariest part was, behind him, there were 20 more mannequins who were sitting or standing in the classroom. Their bodies did not move, but their necks were twisted in weird angles, and all of them were turning to smile at the visitors outside the window. The blanched Pei Hu staggered back a few steps before he stabilized himself. Are you alright? What happened? Wang Wenlong and Xia Meili behind them rushed over immediately. Don't mind him. It's nothing. Wang Hailong's legs were shaking, and his face was slightly twitching, but he forced himself to appear calm. It's just a bunch of mannequins. Even though they were mentally prepared, the other three still got quite a shock when they looked into the classroom. The sudden appearance of 20 or so mannequins was scary enough, but to have them all looking in the same direction, with some of their necks twisted 180 degrees. Who would be able to prepare for a sight like that? I was wondering why the previous classrooms weren't scary. It was to prepare for this surprise. Wang Wenlong was probably the most collected of them all. He turned on his phone to use the flashlight. Wenlong, the boss said to not use the phone inside the scenario, Xia Meili warned. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. As Wang Wenlong directed the flashlight into the sealed classroom, the light reflected on the mannequins' shiny bodies. Should be all mannequins. None of them blinked. When the light hit their eyes. Wait. I saw name tags, there are 2 of them. Where? Hanging on the mannequin's uniform. Wang Wenlong pointed his flashlight, and everyone turned to look. The mannequin in the middle of the classroom had a name tag hanging on its uniform's lapel while the other name tag was on the innermost table. To obtain these 2 name tags, one had to move through the rows of mannequins. This boss sure is immoral. Thankfully, all 5 of us came in. If we followed his rules and came in to find the name tags alone, of course, that person would be scared witless. Fine, time to stop praising others and lowering our own morale. Wang Hailong walked back and forth several times until his legs did not feel that numb anymore. There's still time. There should be more than 2 name tags inside this classroom. We not only have to go in, but we also need to search the place carefully to find all of the name tags. Brother Long, please think about it. There's no reason to put our lives on the line for 4,000. Pei Hu still had not recovered from the scare earlier, and his brain was still a muddled mess. Is it as serious as you're making it out to be? Stop talking nonsense, come here. Wang Hailong dragged Pei Hu to the entrance of the sealed classroom. Why do I need to enter first? Pei Hu showcased his survival instinct. I'm afraid that you'll leave us behind if I don't watch over you. Wang Hailong shoved Pei Hu into the room and turned around to tell Do Menlu and Xia Meili. The 3 of us guys will go in first. If anything happens, come in to get us. Okay, be careful. It'll be fine. Didn't Wenlong say it just now? They're all mannequins. Wang Hailong and Wenlong also entered the classroom. The 3 of them stood at the lectern and looked over the classroom. Goosebumps instantly formed on their skin. This is just wonderful. The mannequins have taken up all the space, there's not even room for us to move. Pei Hu, since you're so scared, you go and take the name tag in the middle of the room. Wenlong, you check the drawers, and I'll go and grab the furthest name tag. Wang Hailong acted like a real big brother. Even though Pei Hu did not feel that satisfied, there was nothing he could do about it. Before getting down from the lectern, Pei Hu jumped back again. Brother Long, these mannequins look weird, their eyes seem to move. Would it kill you to be a little bit quiet? Wang Hailong was also made anxious by Pei Hu. This is called the uncanny valley effect. Things that are too similar to humans will naturally elicit a negative reaction, Wang Wenlong explained, but he did not seem to buy his own explanation. Both of you be quiet. The boss has already started the countdown, and we need to find all the name tags in 20 minutes to win. Stop wasting time. Wang Hailong forced himself to walk toward the innermost table. Brother Long, don't be angry. Pei Hu moved toward the middle table with some hesitation. Due to his large size, when he got down from the lectern, his stomach knocked into a nearby standing mannequin, causing it to move. The person who designed this haunted house must have experienced some kind of trauma to be able to come up with something as sick as this, Pei Hu grumbled, but before he finished, he suddenly felt someone knock into his back. Wenlong. He turned to look, and Wang Wenlong was several meters away from him. Who touched me? He looked around before his gaze fell on the mannequin that was still trembling. The mannequin was very lifelike. If one did not take a closer look, one would be prone to believe it was a real person. This mannequin touched me. Pei Hu shivered. He did not dare stay to find out and hurried to the centermost table. It was a girl who sat at the table. Her uniform was different from the others and was drenched in blood like something horrible had happened to her at the last moment of her life. Pei Hu stared at the name tag on the lapel and took a deep breath before reaching for it. When his fingertip was about to touch the girl's neck, the head that was turned toward the window suddenly moved. Pei Hu instantly pulled his hand back like he had been shocked by electricity. It really moved. Could this be a real person? He looked around. Wang Hailong was still moving toward the innermost table, and Wang Wenlong was near him. His friends were close, and this gave Pei Hu some degree of courage. He reached out once more and finally grabbed the name tag. I did it. Even though it was not anything impressive, Pei Hu felt incredibly happy. However, when he was about to retract his hand, he realized that someone had strung a piece of string around the name tag, and the string was tied to a noose around the girl's neck. Is this really necessary? He felt like cleaving the boss in two then. He gripped the name tag and moved around the mannequin. The classroom was dark, so he needed light to undo the knot. He took out his phone for light and bent down to get close to the girl. When the phone's light hit the girl's face, the mannequin's expression shifted, but Pei Hu did not notice that. Holding the phone in his hand, he stood behind the girl and had his head lowered to focus on the knot. However, as he was fully focused, he heard Wang Wenlong suddenly take a deep breath and whisper, "This is weird, how come I feel like this mannequin has been following me?" You're probably overthinking it. Pei Hu, who found progress with his objective, laughed. He wanted to turn back to continue undoing the knot when he suddenly realized that the girl sitting before him had turned her head around, and the two faces, one living and one inanimate, were only half a finger away from each other. The young face was covered with purplish bruises. She had a pair of dancing eyes and thin lips. She looked gorgeous when she smiled. This was the first time Pei Hu had been in such close contact with a girl. Looking at the head that had twisted 180 degrees, his mind was blank. What is happening? I wasn't rejected, and I didn't give up from fear. These two things should bring me more happiness. It should be a dreamlike happiness waiting for me, but why? Why did everything change? The head that sat on the mannequin's shoulders at impossible angle blinked lightly, and the clear skin turned black and blue as if from asphyxiation. Looking at the protruding set of eyes, Pei Hu's entire person was shocked beyond belief. Help! A shrill male voice echoed throughout Muyang High School as Pei Hu gripped the name tag and ran out of the classroom. The name tag was tied to the mannequin's neck, so the mannequin was dragged along with him. The tables in the room were messed up, and all the mannequins started to move. Pei-Hu dashed toward the entrance like his life depended on it. The huge commotion startled Wang Wenlong, who thought the mannequin was following him, and without a second word, he headed for the door as well. They neared the classroom door, one running at the front, the other at the back. Poor Wang Hailong was still moving toward the innermost table. The whole room of mannequins was toppled, heads flying everywhere and limbs collapsing. It felt like they had all come to life. What's happening? Brother Long, who cowered in the corner of the classroom, felt like he had entered hell. This scene was one that he would not forget for life. Wait for me. He grabbed the name tag that was left on the table and half-crawled his way through the maze of mannequins. Before he got out, he heard Pei-Hu scream, "Don't follow me. Don't follow me." Pei-Hu had forgotten that the name tag in his hand was tied to the mannequin's neck. In his panic, he had dragged the mannequin along with him to the door. "Stop chasing me." He felt like something was collapsed onto his back. When he exited the classroom, without a second though, he slammed the door shut behind him. "Wait for me." Brother Long's face was twisted in anger. Unable to stop the momentum of his full-speed sprint, he rammed into the door. He collapsed onto the floor, and the mannequin heads rolled around on the floor. He realized a roomful of eyes was staring at him. Various mannequin faces flickered before Wang Hailong's eyes. He felt the energy draining out of him, his body was frozen solid, and there were tears in his eyes. "Pei-Hu, you damnable." Outside the sealed classroom, Pei-Hu and Wang Wenlong were leaning against the wall, gasping for air. That was hella scary. This classroom is definitely cursed. The mannequin moved. She winked at me. "Pei-Hu, behind you. Look behind you," the two girls screamed together. Pei-Hu turned around and saw that the girl mannequin was hanging on his back. He shivered from fear and hurriedly extricated himself from the mannequin before tossing it down the corridor. The mannequin slammed against the floor, and the beautiful head detached itself from the body. The face with a curious smile rolled before it stopped at the corner of the corridor. "It was this mannequin that smiled at me earlier. I didn't think it would follow me," Pei-Hu groused weakly. "How about we just surrender now? This haunted house is too much. No wonder the boss is offering a 20,000 reward, no one will be able to win. You want to give up after 4 minutes? Have you no shame?" Wang Wenlong complained. "The classroom should be the hardest scenario. We have found the name tags inside, so the rest should be easy. If you want to stay, go ahead. I'm leaving." "Wait." Do Menglu looked into the classroom before asking, "There are only the two of you, where is Brother Long?" "Brother Long." Pei-Hu and Wang Wenlong looked around, and their faces dropped. He should be still inside." The two of them opened the classroom door quickly. Brother Long was collapsed next to the lectern, and there were tear stains on his cheeks. "Brother Long. Why are you still inside?" His lips were slightly purple. When he heard this question, Brother Long almost blew his top off. "You two still have the face to ask me that question? I also want to know why I was left in here. Quick, come and pull me up." After a few attempts, Wang Hailong finally found his footing. He cracked his knuckles to work some warmth into them. "Brother Long, should we just give up? We'll just sit at the entrance for another 20 minutes, then we'll leave. That way, it'll seem like we stayed for 20 minutes, Wang Wenlong whispered. "Your mind is only filled with horrible ideas like that." Wang Hailong rubbed his eyes surreptitiously. "That would mean that we have surrendered to this haunted house. Remember, there are no actual ghosts in this world, everything is a trick created by the boss. He's probably looking at us through the surveillance camera now. Brother Long is right. If we go and sit at the entrance and the boss suddenly opens the wooden boards, can you imagine how embarrassing that will be?" Xia Meili stood with Brother Long. But even now, we don't know how big this place is. If we run into something scarier later on, what shall we do? Pei Hu was on the verge of tears. We have not seen a single actor, but we're already so spooked. I still think we should not be so stubborn and put ourselves through this misery for the sake of face. Stop talking nonsense. I still haven't decided what I am going to do with the both of you for abandoning me inside the classroom, and now you're trying to go against my orders. Wang Hailong glared at the two of them. Look at the two of you, even worse than the two girls. But it wasn't the two of us that cried earlier, Wang Wenlong grumbled softly. Wang Hailong pretended not to hear him and said, we have to pick ourselves back up. I believe we have around 10 minutes left. Let's get moving, we still have a chance to find all the name tags. Then, he opened his palm to reveal a name tag. This is the one I found inside the classroom. Combined with the one Pei Hu found and the first one, we already have 3 name tags. Make it 4. I found this inside one of the drawers. Wang Wenlong showed his discovery. Good, even though the process was tumultuous, the result was good. Wang Hailong put all the name tags into this pocket. Actually, if you think about it, there is nothing scary about a bunch of surprisingly lifelike mannequins. The key is we must not scare ourselves, especially you, Pei Hu. Man up a bit. But I really did see the mannequin wink. Her face also changed like she was dying from asphyxiation. Pei Hu grumbled with dissatisfaction. That's enough out of you. If you're that scared, go stand behind Meili and keep your mouth shut. Wang Hailong waved impatiently as he walked deeper into Muyang High School. But it's true. Pei Hu trailed behind the group as they proceeded forward. None of them realized that the mannequin that had been left in the corridor was slowly crawling toward the detached head. When Chingu heard the scream coming out from Muyang High School, he opened the boards and rushed into it. It was first day that Muyang High School had been open to the public, and Chingu was afraid that mannequins might take it too far. Chen Yalan's name tag by the entrance has been taken already. Weren't these people afraid it might be a trap? Hopefully, that name tag won't pressure the pen spirit to do anything dumb. Chingu walked down the corridor until he reached the sealed classroom. The mannequin on the floor was hugging its head. It seemed like it was trying to reattach the head, but it could not find the proper location. Why is this mannequin outside? Chingu looked into the classroom. The tables were a mess, and several mannequins were missing their heads. Based on the conditions, they probably had the fright of their lives, so they wouldn't be daring enough to bring this mannequin out. Chingu picked the mannequin up from the floor and leaned her against the wall. Then he helped her reattach the head. He looked at the mannequin in her eyes. Perhaps it was the light, but he felt like there was soul in this mannequin. In fact, he could sense a trace of shyness and respect. After taking out his black phone, Chingu looked through all the pages. There was no option related to controlling the mannequin's lingering spirit, so he told the mannequin, you can leave the classroom, but you cannot leave the Muyang High School scenario, understood? The mannequin did not respond, but Chingu did not care whether she got it or not. He placed her on the side of the corridor and entered the sealed classroom to reset all the mannequins. There are 4 name tags in the classroom, and they have taken 3 of them. This group of people is not bad. Chingu moved swiftly, and when he passed the table in the middle of room, his feet knocked into something. Why is there a phone here? Did any of you hear the sound of talking coming from behind us? Pei Hu's legs were shaking, and he turned back to look every 3 steps. Even Xia Meili was tired of the man's cowardice. Poor kitty, if you're that afraid, just stay here and wait for us to come back. Who are you calling a kitty? Meili, you did not see what happened inside the classroom. The place was dark, and I had to use the flashlight on my phone to even get a good look of what was happening. When I was focused on undoing the knot, the mannequin's head suddenly creaked and turned around. Even thinking about it now, Pei Hu was still afraid. He waved his hands in the air for a long time, and when he reached into his pocket, he gasped. I was too focused on grabbing the name tag that I left my phone in the classroom. Then, go and take it back, why are you telling me this? Xia Meili gave Pei Hu a side eye. You want me to go back alone? Pei Hu glanced behind him with a bitter expression on his face. The darkened corridor was like the open maw of a monster. So be it, I'll ask the haunted house worker to get it for me after we're out. He ran after the rest of the group, and the 5 stopped at the first junction. Just how big is this place? The path splits, and we can't even see the end of the corridors. Pei Hu squeezed beside Wang Hailong. Brother Long, there's still time for us to turn around. Get away from me. Wang Hailong was getting nervous, too, but he did not dare show it before Domenlu. About a third of the time has passed, and we still have 20 name tags to find. Moving in a group of 5 slows us down greatly. How about this? Wenlong and Pei Hu, you go down the left path, and I'll take Menlu and Meili down the right. What do you think? We have no issue with that, the 2 girls said. Same with me, Wang Wenlong said with confidence. This time, even though we failed the challenge, we would have explored the entire scenario, it'll be good information for our brother. Then it's decided. The 2 of you better stick close to me. Wang Hailong led the 2 girls down the corridor that led to the girls' dormitory. No one even asked for my opinion. Come on, Pei Hu, you're with me. Wang Wenlong departed, and even though Pei Hu did not want to follow, it would be worse if he was left behind all alone. There doesn't seem to be anything scary here. Wang Wenlong and Pei Hu reached the end of the path. The 2 looked at each other and saw the surprise reflected in each other's eyes. The corridor split in 2 again. At the narrow end of one path was an old well, and the other led to a room with the number 303 hung on the door. Let's go together. Pei Hu grabbed Wang Wenlong's arm tightly. Okay. Wang Wenlong looked into the distance. Why do you think there's a well at the end of the road? An actor playing a ghost probably hides in there. Most likely. The haunted house's boss likes to hide the name tags in scary places, so I believe there has to be at least one inside the well. Wang Wenlong was certain. Come on, let's go take a look. The 2 of them walked to the well and peered in. The well was about 2 meters deep. Wang Wenlong took out his phone to shine the light into the well. As he expected, 2 name tags sat at the bottom of the well. This is too easy. Pei Hu took a step back. Jumping into the well to take the name tags was definitely not something he would do. Be careful. We didn't come across any scares along the way, so this well must have its own traps and secrets. Wang Wenlong leaned against the well and shone the flashlight at every corner, but he did not find anything weird looking. It really did look like a normal, old well. Have I overestimated the boss? Wang Wenlong let his guard down. After all, there were so many name tags, to set a trap for each of them would be too difficult. He passed the phone to Pei Hu. You stay above the well and hold the light for me. I'll go into the well to collect the name tags. Okay. Pei Hu sighed in relief. As long as he did not have to go down the well, he was good with anything. After all, with his size, it would be difficult for him to even get down the well. Wang Wenlong's frame was small but fit, it looked like he trained daily. Pei Hu, if you dare run away on your own when I'm down there, I'll skin you alive after we leave this haunted house. What kind of person do you think I am? Do you think I would do something like that? Pei Hu looked insulted. You guys keep underestimating me. I'll prove myself, and you'll see. Before he finished, Wang Wenlong jumped into the well. The dark well looked deeper from the inside. This observation was the most obvious to Wang Wenlong. Is it me or had this well gotten deeper? He had a soft landing because the bottom of the well was covered with sand. Looks like I was right. The haunted house's boss planned for people to jump inside the well, or else he wouldn't have placed the layer of soft sand to soften the impact. He examined the well wall. Some places were slippery while other spots had claw marks like someone had been buried alive and left the marks behind as they tried to claw their way out. This is quite creepy. Wang Wenlong looked above him and suddenly it felt like the mouth of well had moved further away from him. Something's wrong. Standing inside the well, a weird feeling came over Wang Wenlong. It felt like he had sunk into the deep ocean and his body was slowly submerging. His chest felt congested. He did not dare dawdle. He bent down to pick up the name tags. When his fingers brushed the bottom of the well as he picked up the name tags, Wang Wenlong discovered there was something underneath the sand. It was about the size of a thumb. Is this some kind of trap? Wang Wenlong was cautious. He did not touch the thing that protruded out of the sand but moved the sand around the thing away. What is hiding underneath here? His fingers had made contact, and the touch was different from the slippery sensation of sand. It was something softer and colder. As the sand fell away, a human face surfaced, and the thing that had protruded earlier was the tip of face's nose. Wang Wenlong quickly pulled his hands back. He had looked around closely before he jumped in and did not find anything weird. The boss sure is immoral. He hid this underneath the sand. If he knew there was a body hiding underneath the sand, Wang Wenlong would not have jumped into the well, at least not alone. He panicked and tossed the 2 name tags out of the well, yelling, "Pei Hu, pull me up quickly. There is mannequin inside the well as well." Mannequin inside the well? Pei Hu shone the phone into the well, and the face within the sand looked up at him. He shivered and reached into the well. This is weird, when you jumped in, the well did not seem so deep. Wang Wenlong gripped Pei Hu's arms, and his feet climbed up the clawed wall. Just as he was trying to pull himself up, he felt something cold touch his ankle. His legs gave, and he fell back into the well. "Wenlong, what's wrong? Something touched me earlier." Wang Wenlong looked at his ankle, but there was nothing there. Could it have been a lizard or tiny bug? No clue. Wang Wenlong looked around him and realized that even without his intervention, the sand around the body would slip away on its own. Soon, half of the mannequin's upper torso was revealed. It felt like the mannequin was trying to sit up. It knows how to move on its own. This can't be an actor. It would have made some noise when I fell on it earlier if it was a real person. Wang Wenlong's mind started to get muddled. "Pei Hu, quickly pull me up." Outside the well, Pei Hu heard his voice and quickly reached down. "Grab onto my hand." This time, Pei Hu acted courageously. With one hand on the flashlight, he extended his other arm into the well. The thick arm looked weirdly comforting. "Okay." His teammate's voice made Wang Wenlong feel much better. He grabbed Pei Hu's hand and started his climb out of the well. He leaned against the wall and tried to jump out in one go. When his body had almost reached the mouth of the well, his legs that were in the air were gripped tightly by something. He was pulled back into the well. Wang Wenlong turned to look behind him with disbelief, and the scene that he saw caused chills to run all over his body. The face in the sand was looking at him with its eyes open. It was the mannequin who dragged me down. Wang Wenlong looked at the mannequin in the sand, and for some reason, he felt the eyes were following him. This is too much. His body leaning against the wall, Wang Wenlong looked above him. The light at the mouth of the well seemed to have moved further away from him. "I can't stay here any longer. Pei Hu. Will you please be quiet? I feel like someone is coming our way." Pei Hu reached both of chubby hands into the well to hold Wang Wenlong. "Let's give this another go." Pei Hu pulled with all his might, but some other accident seemed to have happened to Wang Wenlong. This time, he was cautious. When he discovered the force on his ankle, he turned to look down. There was nothing on his ankle, but under the spot that he had been standing on earlier, a female body had surfaced. "There are 2 mannequins inside the well. Meaning I've been standing on the woman's head?" A chilling feeling surged through his heart. Are there more mannequins inside the well? The person who designed the haunted house must be mad. Buried the mannequins inside the well and waited for people to jump into it. Gripping Pei Hu's hands, he wiggled his legs in the air, trying to kick the force on his ankle away. Stop moving about. I cannot hold on any longer. Pei Hu pulled again, and his face was red from the effort. He put one of his hands on the edge of the well as support, and while he gave another pull, the bad feeling increased. Pei Hu kept looking around, and when his eyes swept the corridor that they came from, his heart froze. A girl with her head lowered stood at junction that separated the dark corridor. The uniform that was dark with blood amplified the fairness of her skin. That's the mannequin that I carried out of the classroom. Even the air that he breathed into his lungs was chilly, and his arms were shaking. Didn't she lose her head? Was it the worker who fixed it for her and placed her in the corridor? It has to be. A mannequin wouldn't be able to move on her own. Pull. Quick. The mannequins have opened their eyes. Wan Wenlong yelled from inside the well. It sounded like the man was crying. At the same time, the mannequin at the junction lifted her head creakily, and the face that was purplish with blood spots turned to look in the direction of the old well. There is probably some hidden mechanism installed inside the neck. That explains the movement of the head. Pei Hu sucked in a deep breath and turned back to the well. I mustn't be distracted, no matter what, I have to save Wenlong first. He tried to focus, but his eyes kept wandering toward the corridor, and when he did, Pei Hu's heart almost jumped out of its chest. The girl who was supposed to be standing at the junction had moved into the left corridor. She stood in the middle of the corridor and was looking at him with a smile. Pei Hu's breathing raced, his palms sweated, and the fat on his body started to jiggle. What are you doing spacing out? His calves felt like they were entwined by seaweed. Wan Wenlong tried his best, but he could not shake the shackles on his ankles off. He panicked when he saw the man and woman mannequins inside the well open their eyes. His only wish then was to get out of that damnable well. Pull me up. Pei Hu yanked Wan Wenlong up another few centimeters. A cold draft came from the corridor, and a light creak entered Pei Hu's ear. He turned to look out of the corner of his eyes. In the dark corridor, the mannequin had toppled over, and the head with the weird smile was rolling speedily toward the old well like it was being pushed by an invisible hand. The face of the girl who had died from asphyxiation slowly approached. Pei Hu's face was twisted beyond recognition by fear. This time, he heeded the sound of his heart. He let go of Wan Wenlong's hands without hesitation and rushed into room 303 with a speed that was disproportional to his size. He then slammed the door shut behind him. Without the support, Wan Wenlong slipped down the well, and as the surface that was inches away disappeared from his grasp, an expression of abject fear froze on his face. Pei Hu. Chen Guo was fixing the heads onto the mannequins in the sealed classroom when he suddenly heard a man's scream coming down from the far end of corridor. The scream was a mixture of complicated emotions. That doesn't sound like the scream of fear. It is mixed with surprise, anger, and terror. Chen Guo fixed the last mannequin and exited the classroom. This batch of visitors sure is energetic. Pei Hu, who had rushed into room 303, had his back against the door, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Damn, Wenlong is still inside the well. Pei Hu's palms were slick with sweat, and he looked at Wenlong's phone in his grasp. I've even taken his phone away. The well is so dark, and there seems to be mannequins buried underneath. Pei Hu did not dare continue that thought. He looked around the room. Room 303 had retained its original look. There was a bunch of dirty laundry sitting in the middle of the room, but the stench was missing. Why would they leave a pile of clothes in the middle of the room? This place gives me the creeps. To be safe, I'll just stand by the door, he mumbled to himself when someone knocked on the door behind him. However, curiously enough, the source of knocking came from the spot that was around his feet. People normally wouldn't knock at that spot, so this definitely isn't Wen Long. The only thing that could walk outside the corridor other than Wang Wen Long, there was only one other option left. Pei Hu's face fell, and he stared at bottom of the door, which was creating the knocking sound. It's the head. The mannequin head is knocking on the door. The thought caused Pei Hu's legs to go weak. He wanted to lock the door and realized with horror that the lock was merely a decoration. A slight push, and the door would be opened. There should be a window inside this room, right? But what if the mannequin head enters the room after I leave the door? Pei Hu scratched his chin in thought, but it would not work if he just stood there, blocking the door throughout the night either. The knocking continued, and each knock resounded in Pei Hu's head. I need to figure out a way to get out of here. Pei Hu started to look around the room and then walked over the pile of dirty laundry. After an examination of the room, he came up with nothing. It's a thick cement wall outside the window, there's no exit. Will I have to stay here until the game ends? Pei Hu stood in the middle of the room. How did a visit to the haunted house turn into something like this? The winking mannequin, buried bodies in the well, and a detached head that chases people around. Is the boss a magician? How did he manage all this? Before Pei Hu could get an answer, there was a loud bang on the door. The force has suddenly increased. Is it the mannequin? Has she found her head? The thought of it chilled Pei Hu. He looked around, and in the urgency of the moment, he hid inside the bedroom. Why doesn't this bedroom even have a door? He regretted it after entering the room, but everything was already too late. The only hiding place inside the bedroom was under the bed. He shone the phone underneath the bed, and after seeing that there was not anything weird, he crawled into it. Please just leave me be. He snuck under the bed, pocketed the phone, and focused his pair of eyes at the room door. The darkened room was very quiet, and the smallest sound was amplified. A few seconds later, the living room door was pushed open. After a tense silence, a very light sound reverberated through the living room. Sounds like something is rolling on the floor. The thought flashed through Pei Hu's mind, and 1 second later, his legs froze, and a chill traveled from the balls of his feet to the top of his head. I seem to have forgotten one thing. The rolling sound neared, and when Pei Hu turned his head toward the door, a detached mannequin head that was smiling rolled to a stop at the bedroom door. Two pairs of eyes looked at each other, and time seemed to stop. Wang Hailong led Xia Meili and Domenlu to the female dormitory. Even though Brother Long had cried earlier, before his girlfriend, he had to act tough and calm. He walked ahead of the girls. They looked into the bedrooms before stopping at the one with the pen spirit. This room looks different. A few chairs were placed in the middle of the room, and there was a piece of white paper that had something written on it. Brother Long picked up the piece of paper and read it out loud. The pen spirit knows the location of 3 name tags. No wonder this feels so familiar, it's the pen spirit game. Domenlu wandered closer out of curiosity. I've seen this in the movies many times, but I didn't expect to run into one in real life. It's all fake, just a gimmick. Wang Hailong tossed the paper back onto the chair. But we mustn't miss out on 3 name tags. Do either of you know the rules? I do. Domenlu sat on one of the chairs and had Wang Hailong sit beside her. Just follow my lead. Could you two be a bit more careful? Playing a game like this inside a haunted house might attract some unwanted spirit. Xia Meili stood at the door. Looking at the banter between Domenlu and Wang Hailong, she was feeling rather uncomfortable. If a pen spirit really appears, that would be awesome. I want to ask whether I'll be Brother Long's future wife. Domenlu grinned as she picked up the pen that was glued together with clear tape and held it in the middle. Ask away. Wang Hailong did not seem to mind. Ignoring the fact that Xia Meili was there, he grabbed Domenlu's hand directly. Xia Meili pouted, and she turned to walk away. You two have fun, I'll go take a look around. Don't wander too far, Meili. She knows how to take care of herself. Now, listen to me, Brother Long, there are several taboos to the pen spirit game. 1. You mustn't ask about death. 2. You cannot stop the game abruptly. When Xia Meili exited the room, even the air felt fresher. That room stinks of sour sweetness. I hope the pen spirit teaches them a lesson. She walked to the end of the corridor, and the place became even creepier. Xia Meili was about to turn back when she heard Wang Wenlong's scream coming from the other end of the corridor. What happened? Based on the scream, Wenlong doesn't sound scared but more like he's angry. Xia Meili retraced her steps, but this time, she entered the other corridor. Where are they? There's another split in the road. Which way should I go? Xia Meili stopped at the junction between the old well and the few rooms from Hai Ming Apartments. She hesitated. Pei Hu has lost his phone, so I should call Wenlong to ask for an explanation. The phone's ringtone came out from one of Hai Ming Apartments' rooms, but no one answered it. They're inside one of these rooms. The ringtone sounded weirdly creepy in the haunted house. Xia Meili ended the call and walked toward the 3 doors. Wenlong. Pei Hu. Xia Meili called out twice at the door, but there was not even an echo inside the haunted house. It felt like the sound was swallowed by some monster hiding in the dark. What happened to the 2 of them? She did not want to return to the lovey-dovey Wang Hailong and Domenglu, but she wanted to explore the place alone even less. Don't tell me something happened to them. But that scream from Wenlong does not sound like he was in danger. Xia Meili stood at the doors for some time before finally pushing the door closest to her open. 304. Why is there a number on the door? What is the meaning? Xia Meili peered inside. It was different from she expected. The room was very clean. Why do I feel so worried even though the place is so clean? She stood at the door and called her friends' names twice. The more she called, the more worried she became. Where could these 2 large men have wandered off to? She took out her phone to shine some light around, but the light only made her surroundings look darker, and there appeared to be something moving in the corridor behind her. It's too dangerous standing outside. I'd better go in first. Xia Meili entered room 304 and closed the door behind her. This room looks very normal, like a typical rental room, but the more normal it seems, the higher the chance there's something scary. The haunted house's boss would not build a set like this just for decoration. She was cautious and braver than most girls. With her body against the wall, she looked around the room before taking the first small step. Xia Meili finished examining the room after a few minutes and found nothing weird. There's nothing scary in the living room, so the danger is probably in the other 2 rooms. Wenlong and Pei Hu probably let their guard down and fell for the trap that was placed in the other rooms. Xia Meili gripped the phone tightly as she moved to the bedroom. The bedroom does not have a door, so there will not be an actor hiding behind it. However, there are still blind spots behind the door frame. I need to be careful. She moved slowly, but her heart beat ever faster. When she reached the bedroom room, Xia Meili activated the video recorder on her phone and reached the phone into the room and turned it around. After taking a full video, she examined it on the phone. The video was dark, but it was enough to confirm that there was no one hiding in the bedroom. There's no one in the bedroom? Ah, I almost forgot. I haven't checked the area under the bed. She retreated back to the living room, selected a specific angle, squatted down, and aimed the flashlight on her phone at the space underneath the bed. There's really nothing. Looks like I've watched a few too many scary movies. Xia Meili relaxed slightly. If I was the designer, of course, I would not waste this precious spot that is under the bed. I would put some trap on it to make a mannequin jump out when someone sits on the bed. Then Xia Meili wandered into the bedroom. There really were no traps or tricks. There was, however, a light scent of detergent. Even the tablecloth has the scent of detergent to it. Looks like the tenant has a strong obsession with cleanliness. After exiting the bedroom, Xia Meili turned to look at the last available room. The toilet is also a prime location, but this toilet is small and has no cubicle. There's not even a place for a person to hide. Xia Meili treated the visit to the haunted house as some sort of survival game. She was very careful and took deliberate steps. This type of visitor was horrid for haunted house proprietors because they would come up with all kinds of solutions to undo the trap set up by the haunted house. When the traps were exposed beforehand, the scary effect would greatly dwindle. The layout of Hai Ming Apartments' toilets was interesting to say the least. The mirror was facing the toilet door, so whether the resident was passing the toilet or entering it, their attention would be pulled to the mirror. It was the same for Xia Meili. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she felt uneasy. Is this the environment or a trick of the eyes? How come I feel like the person inside the mirror is not me? She stood at the door and shone her phone on the mirror. It reflects light, so it is an actual mirror, not an actor standing behind it to scare people. She held the wall as she entered the toilet. The space inside was small, and soon, she found herself standing before the mirror. Either there is no a trap to this room or the people hiding inside this place left after they scared Wenlong and Pei Hu. Xia Meili reached out to touch the mirror, and her tensed feelings relaxed. It's just a fake scare. This is all Pei Hu's fault, I've been infected by his cowardice. She looked at herself in the mirror, and upon closer inspection, it looked much more normal. This is just a regular haunted house, we have been scaring ourselves for naught. Since Wenlong and Pei Hu aren't in this room, they should be in one of the other two rooms. Xia Meili tried calling Wang Wenlong again. The sound seems to be coming from next door. She leaned to her side to listen, and right then, a drop of water fell from the ceiling and landed on the edge of the sink. Xia Meili's focus was fully zeroed in on determining the source of the ringtone, so she did not wonder why water was leaking from the ceiling. It's definitely coming from next door room 303. Another droplet of water fell from the ceiling. This time, it fell on the tip of Xia Meili's shoes. Before she could react, the third drop fell on her nose, and it slid down her face. Finally, Xia Meili noticed it. This haunted house is leaking. She frowned and turned her head up. In the partition above her head lay a woman who was completely drenched. Her face that was twisted from pain looked at Xia Meili quietly. A head of black hair fell down her face, and it would soon reach Xia Meili's eyes. No wonder I could not find anything it was hiding up there. Something more viscous than water fell on Xia Meili's face. She wiped at it and realized it was as red as blood. Her body weakened, and Xia Meili collapsed to the floor with a thud. Chen-gu exited the sealed classroom. Where is the mannequin that I left out here? The girl mannequin had disappeared, and Chen-gu rushed toward the entrance. He remembered the warning on the black phone. Once the spirits left the haunted house, they might go berserk. Chen-gu examined the wooden boards at the entrance, and they were unmoved. He sighed in relief. It's almost time to get them out already. He did not even grab the iron mallet and entered the scenario with just a bloodied shirt. He was halfway down the corridor when he heard an ear-splitting female scream coming from the direction of the female dormitory. That sounds like it came from the Pen Spirit's room, but the Pen Spirit doesn't seem aggressive enough to have caused something like this. Chen-gu increased his pace and soon saw a woman in hot pants who had lost her heels running his way at full speed. Her hair was a frazzled mess, and her delicate features were twisted from fear. Her face was blanched, and one of her heels was missing. The sexiness and softness that she had displayed before entering the haunted house had completely disappeared. Do Munlu. When Chen-gu saw Do Munlu, this racing woman also saw Chen-gu. However, unlike Chen-ji's calm attitude, she started to scream shrilly like she had seen a ghost and turned back to run away. Standing where he was, Chen-gu touched his own face. Is it because of the mask? The two consecutive scares had exploded the latent potential within Do Munlu. Her slender legs carried her away like the wind, and she disappeared from Chen Ji's view in the blink of an eye. What has gotten into her? Chen Gu pulled off the mask and walked deeper into the scenario. But why is she alone? Were the others separated? When he reached the first junction, Chen Gu still had not found Domenlu. So be it, I'll go to the pen spirit's room first, or else I'll have another vomit case on my hands. He was about to move when the phone in his pocket rang, and the ringtone traveled far down the corridor. Inside the fourth cubicle of the bathroom, Domenlu had given up on maintaining her image. She was lying on the floor, her eyes looking out through the bottom opening of the door. He didn't chase after me. Good, good. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. Domenlu leaned against the wall, and there were still tears in her eyes. The images from the pen spirit game appeared in her mind. The game had begun smoothly, but when she asked who would be Wang Hailong's future wife, a scene like it had come out of a nightmare appeared. What was with that hanging girl? That couldn't have been an actual person, but it did not look like 3D imaging either. The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. She hid alone in the cramped toilet cubicle, and fear gripped at her heart like a pair of invisible hands. I have to contact the others, we'll need to group up to save Brother Long. Rubbing tears dry, Domenlu called Wang Wenlong's number. It rang for a long time, but there was no answer. What happened? Did something happen to him and Pei Hu as well? After hanging up, Domenlu called Xia Meili. There was still no answer, and this made Domenlu feel even more helpless. She retreated deeper into the corner. Have they all fallen victim to the haunted house? But there are 5 of us. With shaking fingers, Domenlu did not give up, and with the last bit of hope, she called Pei Hu. Pick up, fatty. Didn't you say you like me? Why are you leaving me to die on my own? Due to extreme anxiety, green veins bulged on Domenlu's snow-white skin, and she looked quite harrowing at that moment. 3 seconds passed, and Domenlu's heart sank. What happened to all of you? 5 seconds passed, and she gripped her fists tightly as if holding the last bit of hope in her palms. 10 seconds passed, and Domenlu felt like crying. However, at the 13th second, the phone was suddenly answered. Fatty, why did you wait for so long before answering my call? Domenlu was on the verge of tears. Like a drowning victim finding an emergency raft, she had seen that bit of hope just as despair was about to swallow her whole. Why aren't you talking? Brother Long fainted from the scare, and I'm currently hiding in the 4th cubicle in the bathroom, quickly come save me. After thinking a moment, Domenlu warned, I saw a bloody monster wandering the corridors earlier, so you have to be careful when you come here. In her urgency, she blurted out everything. However, she waited for a long time, and there was still no response. Pei Hu? Are you there? Domenlu gripped the phone with both her hands and placed it beside her ear. You are scaring me. If you can hear me, please say something. After several seconds, there was finally a response from the other end, but it was not Pei Hu's voice. It was a completely unfamiliar, gravelly voice that said, Okay, I will find you now. The phone slid from her fingers. When she heard the voice, Domenlu was stunned, and her heart skipped a beat. Who did I call? Who answered the phone? Who is coming? She looked at the phone on the floor, but she did not dare touch it, treating it like it was some kind of cursed object. I'd better leave before he arrives. Domenlu burst through the door and rushed out of the cubicle, abandoning her phone. As she staggered toward the bathroom room, Chengu entered the bathroom in the bloodied outfit. Domenlu screamed and tripped onto the floor. She crawled back into the bathroom. Go away. Go away. Don't be afraid, I'm just. Before Chengu could say anything, Domenlu had climbed up from the floor, rushed into the nearest cubicle, and used her body to block the door. Chengu did not have the time to stop her, but when he saw that Domenlu had entered the 5th cubicle, he immediately rushed toward her. Hey, that cubicle is off limits. Domenlu, who was on the verge of mental breakdown, did not even have time to recover when she opened her eyes to see the pairs of eyes looking at her. The impactful sight caused goosebumps to rise all over her skin, and she lost the ability to talk. It wasn't like this earlier. Do Menglu fell backwards. Chen-gu quickly rushed forward to grab her by the shoulders and slammed the door of the 5th cubicle shut. "Are you alright? Didn't I warn you not to use cell phone inside the haunted house?" Chen-gu slid the phone on the floor into Do Menglu's pocket, but Do Menglu used her last bit of strength to toss the phone out. "Take it away from me. I'll never use that phone again. Don't be crazy. Go rest by the door. I'll go find your friends." Chen-gu dragged Do Menglu to the bathroom entrance. "By the way, you people sure are courageous to split up and wander off on your own." After consoling Do Menglu, Chen-gu ran to the female dormitory. Wang Hailong was collapsed on the chair with tears in his eyes. He looked like he was going to faint at any given moment. The main power of the pen spirit is fortune-telling. She's weak when it comes to other aspects, so it looks like this big bloke is another paper tiger. Chen-gu picked up the ball pen, and when he saw that the pen wasn't injured, he placed the pen back and dragged Wang Hailong away. "This is exactly the shock I want to see on the first day the new scenario is open for visitation." Chen-gu reunited Wang Hailong and Do Menglu. Then Chen-gu entered the other corridor and looked in every room. After rescuing the unconscious Xia Meili from the toilet of room 304, Chen-gu pushed the female mannequin back into the ceiling partition. Then, Chen-gu dragged Pei Hu out from underneath the bed in room 303. To his surprise, this cowardly fatty had the best mental state of the group of them. When Chen-gu arrived, he was in the middle of a staring contest with the mannequin head by the door. According to the man, before Chen-gu arrived, he had been exchanging gazes with the head for about 10 minutes already. With Pei Hu leading the way, Chen-gu arrived at the last scary stop. He stood beside Pei Hu at the edge of the well and peered into it. Wang Wenlong sat in the old well with his fists punching the air before him. It looked like he was in the middle of a boxing match. "Stand here and don't move. I'll go and pull him out," Chen-gu told Pei Hu. Wang Wenlong heard him and stopped moving. Like a traumatized victim, he lifted his head upwards dumbly. When his pair of lifeless eyes caught Pei Hu, they started to focus. His body shaking with anger, Wang Wenlong seemed to escape from the thing that had taken hold of him earlier, and he yelled at Pei Hu, "You dare come back to face me? Listen to me. It was a dangerous situation. If I didn't run, we both would have been in danger. You lie. It's true. I used myself as bait to lure the scariest threat away. If you don't believe me, ask the boss." Pei Hu felt wronged. Being targeted by a mannequin head and frozen under the bed for 10 minutes, those who had not experienced that before had no idea how scary it was. "Keep your voices low. You can continue the argument outside." Seeing how spirited Wang Wenlong was, Chen-gu sighed in relief. "Come, give me your hand." Wang Wenlong stopped shouting when he saw Chen-gu. "I can't. My lower body is numb." "Numb?" Chen-gu jumped into the well, and with Pei Hu's cooperation, they hauled Wang Wenlong out. After saving the guy, Chen-gu did not hurry to leave. He had inspected the well when he placed the name tags that morning. Other than the two mannequins, there was nothing particularly scary about. Outside the well, Wang Wenlong and Pei Hu had started the argument anew. Chen-gu squatted down to examine the mannequins' faces. The male mannequin's eyes were open, which was different from that morning. The mannequins buried inside the well should represent Fan Yu's parents. If they are baleful specters, it would not be so easy to deal with. Thankfully, they are just lingering spirits. Chen-gu was reminded of what had happened to Fei Yuyang. His body had been taken over by the pen spirit, who wanted to escape, but he had been stopped by the 20 or so spirits in the sealed classroom. The spirits had entered his body and controlled him to walk to the deep well. They had seemed prepared to punish the pen spirit but stopped at the last moment. The mistake lay with the pen spirit. The other spirits dragged her to the well to punish her. Did they plan to throw her inside the well? Chen-gu looked at Fan Yu's parents, who were buried in the sand, and his suspicion was confirmed. The old well seemed to be some sort of prison for evil lingering spirits. Now that I think about it, the lingering spirits in the sealed classroom have quite a strong sense of justice. All the spirits had been orphans when they were alive. They had been adopted by the old headmaster, and they treated Muyang High School as their home. Now that Chen Ji's black phone had reconstructed Muyang High School inside the haunted house, these lingering spirits probably just wanted to have a stable and peaceful life here. As long as you do not do anything out of line, my haunted house will be your new home. Chen-gu looked at the mannequins buried in the sand and jumped out of the well. When he turned back to look inside the well, the eyes of the two mannequins were closed again. Come, it's time to walk you out. Chen-gu helped Wang Wenlong get up from the floor. The fear in his eyes had not dissipated. The only reason he could appear so spirited earlier was because his anger at seeing Pei Hu had suppressed all the other emotions. After wasting a ton of energy, Chen-gu finally managed to drag these 5 people out of Muyang High School. When the curtains to the haunted house opened, the surrounding visitors all took a cold gasp. They had heard the incessant screaming coming from inside the haunted house, but they had never envisioned things being so bad. What have these people experienced? It was only half an hour. Uncle Su, who was serious in his role as the ticket seller, felt everyone's eyes focusing behind him. He had a bad feeling, and when he turned around, his hair stood on end. Damn! What happened to them? Uncle Su abandoned his post and ran over to help Wang Hailong and Xia Meili. Just a little scare, it's nothing serious. Chen-gu released his grasp on Wang Wenlong's arm. Can you walk on your own? When they heard Chen-gu, the visitors all took a step back. He could not even walk, and you say that's a little scare. Are you trying to lie to us? Wang Wenlong was embarrassed with the crowd watching him. He waddled forward 2 steps like a baby learning how to walk. Wenlong, Pei Hu. A large fella in a tank top pushed through the crowd. He had the tattoo of a wolf's head on his shoulder. He rushed over to support Wang Wenlong. What happened to all of you? I heard your screams from outside. Chen-gu glanced at the man. He was the group's 6th member. According to their plan, now was the time for the man to challenge the haunted house alone. Were we that loud? Wang Wenlong prayed for a hole for him to hide in as he brushed the man's hands off him. Since Wang Wenlong did not seem like he wanted to explain, he turned to Chen-gu. What have you done to my brother? Brother? Chen-gu thought the man's tone was a bit weird, but he did not take it to heart. He took 1 step forward to face the crowd. I told all of you before they entered that the scenarios are separated into levels. Only by passing the earlier scenarios will you be able to stomach the fear levels of the later scenarios, but they refused to listen to me and insisted on trying it. You can see the result of that for yourselves. Standing before the haunted house, Chen-gu ignored the muscular man, and his expression turned serious. When I suggested to delineate the scenarios into levels, many suspected I was trying to cheat you out of your money, but that is really not the case. I simply want to protect my customers because the newly opened 2-star scenario is not suitable for everyone. Its scare factor is much higher than other haunted houses available on the market. Chen-gu gripped the gate of the haunted house. Western Zhejiang's haunted house has been in operation for several years already, and from the beginning until now, our rating has never dipped under 90%, and that is because we put our customers first. As long as you are willing to try, we will give you the scariest time you'll experience in your life. But have you considered this? Everyone's fear threshold is different. We strive for the ultimate scare, but for those who haven't visited a haunted house before, certain scenarios might be a bit too much. Thus, after much consideration, we decided to set the rules to split the scenarios into levels. The new rules had to be accepted by the visitors, and what Chingu was doing then was introducing the rules to the visitors and making them accept the rules. On one hand, he used reward money to make people want to challenge the hard scenario. On the other hand, he made use of Wang Hailong's group as a lesson to warn future visitors of the consequence from not following the rules. If you want to win the reward, then you have to follow the haunted house's rules. Start with the low-level scenarios before you challenge the scarier ones. Once this rule was put into place, all of the scenarios inside the haunted house would be put to good use. And most importantly, as long as he could unlock more scenarios with higher scream factors, the level of attraction it would have for a certain type of visitors would increase, and this would lay the foundation for the scary theme park. The live example of Wang Hailong's group lent credibility to Chen Ji's words. This is the first time I've heard of a haunted house being delineated into levels, but the boss explanation is indeed professional. I know it is for our own good, but I still wish to try the scariest scenario. The visitors talked among themselves before accepting the new rules. Chen Gu sighed in relief and led Wang Hailong's group to the spot where the medical students had once fainted. How are you feeling? Shall we call the doctor? Thanks, but we're feeling much better. The one who spoke was Wang Hailong. His lips were purple, and his face was white. His eyes were unfocused, and they were covered with a film of mist. At least you're conscious enough to speak, so you're indeed all right. Chen Gu squatted down beside Wang Hailong. Actually, you're lucky. The last person who tried this scenario is still in the hospital. Brother Long flashed a bitter smile. Are you trying to console me? I'm just telling you the truth. Chen Gu took the name tags away from them and turned to tell Uncle Su, let's go. Looking at this familiar scene, Uncle Su was considering building a rest stop beside the haunted house. Making the visitors keep lying on the floor was not good for the park's image. He was quite angry initially, however, after listening to Chen Ji's explanation, he felt the young man had a point. With the separation of levels, the cases of fainting visitors would decrease. After examining Wang Hailong's condition personally and making sure they were all right, he followed Chen Gu. Xiao Chen, did you plan this beforehand? Are you sure you want to separate the scenarios into levels? This will increase the haunted house's overall income, but have you considered it might lose some potential customers? This must happen. Chen Gu stood firm on his position. I've explained why I'm doing this. This is a protective measure for the visitors. There will be more scenarios in the future, and some of them might be too much for normal visitors. Since you know they might be too much, why don't you edit them? After all, the aim is to serve the majority of people. Uncle Su's argument was not wrong, it was just a little conservative. Some things can't be edited. You'll understand in the future. Chen Gu walked for a while before remembering something. Uncle Su, do we have any extra surveillance devices in the park storage? We have some spare ones but not many. Why? I wish to borrow a few to install them in the underground parking lot. The new scenario currently has no surveillance, and I don't feel that good about it. Borrow the surveillance devices? Just what kind of person can come up with something like that? Uncle Su shrugged. Lending them is impossible, but selling them to you at a second-hand price is doable. However, I cannot touch anything in storage without permission. I'll go ask Director Luo this afternoon. Your haunted house has the potential to be this park's top attraction, so I believe he will agree. The two returned to the haunted house. Uncle Su continued to sell tickets. While Chen Gu replaced all the name tags before entering the murder by midnight scenario to act as the murderer. There were a few groups who challenged Muyang High School, but most of them did not even dare enter the sealed classroom. Muyang High School did not have a steel door but only wooden boards as entrance, so if the visitors were afraid, they could leave at any moment. There were not many who were as courageous as Wang Hailong's group, so there were no further accidents. During the lunch break, Chen Gu removed the outfit and walked out of the haunted house. Wang Hailong and his brother were walking toward him. Why are you two still here? Want to give it a second go? Chingu was only joking, but the siblings shook their heads vehemently. No, not that. We acted rashly this morning, I hope you don't mind. Your tone is completely different from before. Tell me, what do you want? Chingu was not someone who had just entered society. Wang Hailong, who was normally so direct, appeared so bashful suddenly. Actually, Wen Long and I have a younger brother called Wang Xinglong. Before he was 5, he was just like any other kid, very playful. However, for some reason, when he turned 5, he suddenly went mute. He refused to speak. Our father has tried many ways, going to the doctors, even visiting fortune tellers, but none worked. What is your point exactly? Chingu was confused about why a 5-year-old would suddenly turn mute and what that had to do with him. Long story short, Wang Hailong made sure no one was eavesdropping before he leaned in toward Chingu. Boss, I saw a scary girl in your haunted house earlier. She was hanging behind my back, her feet stepping on my shoulders. This scenario was exactly the same as my little brother's description of the night before the strange thing happened to him. Wang Wenlong leaned in as well. It's true. That night, the 3 of us were sleeping in the same room. After midnight, our little brother suddenly sat up in bed, saying someone was standing on his shoulders, begging us to move the person away. At the time, we thought he was toying with us, but the next morning, he had forgotten how to speak. He could make sounds but could not finish complete sentences. Wang Hailong touched his shoulder and continued in shaking voice. Since he lost his voice, we had him write down what he wanted to say. The thing he wrote was scary to say the least. He saw someone outside the walls the previous night, and the person was staring at him. For some reason, the person then entered the house. That's scary. Chingu had experienced worse. When we were young, we stayed at a village. The walls were 2.5 meters tall. If there was really someone staring at him from the wall, the person had to be at least 2.6 meters tall. Is that even a person anymore? That's the point. Wang Hailong tried to explain it. The scariest thing was that the person entered the house easily and asked our little brother to play with him. If he rejected, then he would take something away from him. Did your brother reject the person? His voice was taken away. Chingu guessed. No, it's not that. My little brother agreed to play. The game they played is called Who Speaks First. After my little brother nodded, the monster climbed on my little brother's shoulders, and it became even taller. It did not sound that scary on paper, but upon closer inspection, it was quite creepy. The monster climbed on top of your little brother's shoulders, and it grew taller. Chingu could not picture a 2.6-meter tall person standing on top of a child's shoulders. That is what our little brother wrote. We even asked him to draw a picture, and he did. Wang Hailong took out his phone. This is the picture he drew from memory when we took him to the doctor last time. Chingu glanced at the phone, it was a weird picture. At the bottom of the picture, there was a fat and short child, he took up about 1/10 of the paper. The other 90% was dominated by the weird thing on his shoulders. What is this? Chingu looked at the thing on the child's shoulder. It looked like a woman with unruly hair, but the body looked male. Very skinny, like 2 bamboo poles covered with a white cloth. Can't you recognize it? I saw something similar in your haunted house. There was a girl who stood on people's shoulders, and at the time, I was reminded of my little brother's story. Wang Hailong took back his phone. He glanced at the haunted house and residual fear pooled in his eyes. Since you created this scenario, you have to have experienced something similar. Also, when the girl was stepping on my shoulders, it felt very real. If not for my sanity, I would have thought I'd run into a real ghost. Our haunted house utilizes the latest 4D technology and special techniques to stimulate the customer's 5 senses, that was why you felt something on your shoulders. Chingu lied shamelessly. The whole standing on the shoulders thing is just a coincidence. Fine. But Wang Hailong did not give up. Then, can you tell me what it is that inspired you to create such a scene? This Wang Hailong was a stubborn fellow. Chenggu thought about it and said, there are no ghosts in this world, those are all part of human imagination. I know that you are worried about your little brother, but I'm not even a doctor. Instead of asking me, why don't you consult a psychologist? In fact, I can recommend one. The park could close in another 2 months, so Chenggu did not want to waste time on unimportant stuff. He was also doing this for Wang Hailong's brother's sake. After all, he had no official psychological training, so it would be better if this was handled by a professional. My dad has taken him to psychologists since he was young. In fact, there was a mental hospital beside our old house, and my little brother was admitted for a period of time, but the effect was lacking. Wang Hailong hesitated. Brother, let me. Wang Wenlong held his brother. For some weird reason, our little brother has a weird aversion toward doctors. He screams and struggles or even turns violent when he is near people in a doctor's garb. Because of this, we have to notify the doctors beforehand whenever we visit a new doctor. Aversion to doctors. Chenggu found the second anomaly about Wang Hailong's brother. Could it be that the thing on your brother's shoulders is afraid of doctors? So it harms the boy whenever a doctor is near? We do not know the actual reason. Before he was admitted to the hospital next door, he was fine, but after he was released from it, he started to get afraid of doctors, Wang Wenlong added. This was a secret they had shared for years. The sudden change must have a reason. Chenggu tried to help them by analyzing what he knew. Could it be that something the doctor did during his treatment scarred him for life? That's impossible. Shenlong was very young when he sought treatment at the hospital, so the family was at his side at all times. The doctors treated him well. Since it's not the doctors, then perhaps it might have been the environment. Perhaps you can return to this old hospital, maybe you can find some clues there. Chenggu gave his suggestion and then turned to leave for lunch. The hospital closed down a long time ago. The third hospital building Shenlong stayed at is now completely sealed, so we cannot gain entry even if we want to. Wang Hailong sighed. I'm sorry to unload all this on you. Too many things happened today that reminded us of our little brother. The third building? Due to the Black Phone's mission, Chenggu was very sensitive toward the word third. What is this hospital? It was the hospital next to our old house. It was in the next district. We were poor back then, so we could only afford that place. After things got better, we transferred him to another hospital. That's not what I meant. What is the name of this hospital? Chen Ji's eyes that looked at Wang Hailong were rather scary. Jiujiang Third Psychological Convalescence Center, commonly known as Third Center. If I'm not mistaken, it has been abandoned for 5 or 6 years already. Wang Hailong and his brother could not understand this change in Chenggu. Is there a place called the Third Sick Hall at this center? Chenggu was lining up the dots in his mind. That's what you meant. Some referred to the third building my little brother once stayed in as the Third Sick Hall. They are the same place, just different names. I understand. Chenggu took in a deep breath. I know the best doctor in Zhejiang. If possible, can you bring me to meet your little brother tonight? Afraid that he might be rejected, Chenggu immediately started to toot Dr. Gao's horn. No problem, but you have to be prepared, my little brother is, how shall I put this? Is not that normal looking? Wang Hailong forced a smile. If the doctor you mention is coming along, remind him to wear casually. Then, he pulled out a black name card from his pocket. On the front, it was written Long Hu Fong 1. You are. Looking at the uniquely designed name card and the tattoos that covered their body, it finally dawned on Chenggu. Are these gang members? This was the first time Chenggu had interacted with such individuals in his life. Noticing the shock on Chen Ji's face, Wang Hailong whispered, it is as you thought. Long Hufang Sichuan Steamboat is owned by my family. The contact number is on the back of the card. Chen Gu flashed a bright smile as he accepted the card. Do you have a more specific address? Come to the old district's Hai Ming apartments tonight. Xinglong and my father stay there. When Wang Hailong mentioned the name of the location, Chen Gu was stunned. Are the Hai Ming apartments that you mentioned situated in the deepest part of a residential area? With rubbish piling up outside and a very old-looking building? This time, it was Wang Hailong and Wen Long who were shocked. You've been there? I just came back from the place the night before yesterday. Chen Gu also did not think things could be so coincidental. Nice, this means that you know the way there. We're going there tonight. My father has a stubborn disposition, so it will be better for us to meet up downstairs first before going up together. After drafting the plan, the brothers left. Wang Xinglong's old home is next to the third sick hall. Could the monster he saw that night have escaped from the hospital? After he was admitted into the third sick hall, his problem deteriorated. Everything seems to lead back to the mental hospital. Chen Gu watched as the pair of brothers walked away. There's a monster that came out of the third sick hall residing in Wang Haiming, and there appears to be another monster in Wang Xinglong, and they both chose to live at Hai Ming apartments. Suddenly, Chen Gu was reminded of the words mentioned by the young man in room 302. He had once overheard the two voices in Wang Haiming argue, and one of them said that if he was not afraid of being captured by the Red Spectre, he would have killed the other entity already. Could the thing that the monster in Wang Hailing was afraid of be the monster within Wang Xinglong? If that is true, doesn't it mean the monster in Wang Xinglong is on the same level as Zhangya? Wang Xinglong is the scariest entity at Hai Ming apartments. This question was too complicated. Chen Gu skipped lunch and sat on the steps before the haunted house to think. The monster on Wang Haiming had been afraid of tearing away from Wang Haiming because it had felt something. It had forced the young man in room 302 to capture living creatures starting from the initial sparrows, stray dogs, and finally a living human. It slowly broadened its appetite as if feeling out the bottom line of a certain presence. It was similar to the mirror monster, but the one at Qinji's haunted house had acted so brashly. In comparison, the monster at Hai Ming apartment was cautious. Obviously, the monster was afraid, so from this hypothesis, even if the monster on Wang Xinglong was not a red spectre, it was much stronger than normal ghosts. Just how scary is this third sick hall? There's a presence much stronger than the mirror monster, and from the looks of things, these were the two that escaped. There are probably more monsters sealed in that place. Chen Gu rubbed his temples. A 3-star scenario is already like this. Just how scary will the 4-star school of the afterlife be? Standing up, Chen Gu gave Dr. Gao a call. He was unsure whether Dr. Gao was free or not, but if the doctor was too busy, he decided that he would go alone. The call was picked up after 2 rings, and Dr. Gao said, "Chen Gu. How can I help you?" "It's nothing really. I'm just calling to ask about Men Nan. How is he doing?" "After a day of rest, he is getting better, but his condition is not that optimistic. In fact, I fear his situation is worse than I expected." Dr. Gao sounded severe on the phone. That shouldn't be. Chen Gu was confused. He had already helped Men Nan solve the issue in his heart. He had completed the mission given by the black phone, so his condition should have improved. "Listen to me, after Men Nan woke up, I reinitiated another psychological diagnosis, and I happened upon a startling discovery." Dr. Gao paused, and it sounded like he was walking over to a more private area before continuing. "There are 3 personas hiding in Men Nan's body. One is a growing persona, which is the normal Men Nan we see daily. Another persona he has adopted is his dead mother. This persona sees herself as Men Nan's mother. I suspect the appearance of this persona is a method of self-defense created by Men Nan's consciousness after witnessing his mother's murder at a young age." "What about the third?" The period of appearance for this third persona is very short, so we still don't have much information on him. The only thing that I can confirm is that he does exist. This persona is unique, he will not grow, staying stasis at the age when Men Nan was still a child. I cannot communicate with him, and he shows up only for a short period of time. However, whenever this persona takes control of the body, Men Nan's acumen for psychology doubles. Meaning Men Nan's talent is related to this third persona? Yes, I've not come across a more talented person. Dr. Gao had high praise for Men Nan. However, the need to preserve his talent means that the process of recovery will be very difficult. Normal medication will strengthen his normal persona and weaken the others. I'm afraid this will ruin his talent, so I'm discussing his case with other experts. Hopefully, we'll be able to come up with a treatment specifically designed for Men Nan. When he was cured, his talent would also disappear. It was unknown whether this was a good or bad thing for Men Nan. Since Dr. Gao sounded so busy on the phone, Chen Gu did not bring up Wang Xinglong. He did not want to bother the good doctor anymore. Alright, hopefully Men Nan will have a speedy recovery. Goodbye. When he was about to hang up, Dr. Gao said, "Wait, you must have called me for a reason. Men Nan is currently too weak to undergo any psychological treatment, so I am not that busy at the moment. If you have a problem, feel free to ask me." Since Dr. Gao had said so, Chen Gu did not hold back and told him everything he knew about Wang Xinglong. Dr. Gao was silent before saying, "Okay, I will come with you tonight." After all, Men Nan's daily effects are still in Hai Ming apartments. I have been meaning to find time to go fetch him for him. Thank you, Dr. Gao. There's no need for thanks. I've heard all about you from Ru Shui. As a psychology aficionado, you are more than willing to put your knowledge into practice to help others. To be honest, you make me feel ashamed of myself. Psychology aficionado? That's what Gao Ru Shui said about me. Chen Gu did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had a feeling that the other party had misunderstood him somewhat. Your haunted house makes use of many psychological tricks, and it shows you have been reading up on psychology. Dr. Gao laughed. If there's a chance, I shall pay it a visit. You flatter me. Chen Gu wiped the sweat off his forehead. The thought of placing the suit-wearing Dr. Gao in his haunted house to scare for half an hour spooked Chen Gu. His whole characterization would collapse after something like that. Dr. Gao's voice soon returned to normal. There are plenty who self-study psychology, but there aren't many who are willing to do something for the patients. You have helped Wang Xian with her problem, and to be honest, when you called me to ask for help, I was touched. Only those who have experienced psychological trauma will understand the pain involved. Actually, I've been trying to thank you on behalf of Wang Xian and Men Nan. It is because of you that they were able to break free from their psychological shackles and breathe a breath of fresh air. Chen Gu was praised so much by Dr. Gao that he did not even remember ending the call. After all, this was the first time someone had praised him thusly. Chen Gu realized then that he was quite a noble person.